War is always accompanied by destruction and rebirth. For Konoha, the Third Ninja World War, which just ended, brought too much pain. Just after the Ninja World War ended, the Nine Tails Rebellion broke out in Konoha. Fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato dies tragically. In this year, Uchiha Madara died of old age, Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke were born, and Konoha, which had not yet licked its wounds, went to war with Cloud Shinobi again. This seems to be the fate of ninjas, just a double-edged sword in the struggle for power and interests, hurting others, and also hurting oneself. Hokage Building. Inside the third Hokage's office. On the large desk were various documents and a huge crystal ball. A man who looked to be about 50 years old was reading documents and smoking. The white and red divine robe and the bamboo hat with the word fire printed on it prove that this person is the Kage of Konoha Shinobi Village. He is Sarutobi Hiruzen, the feared ninja hero. However, he now looks very old. Although he is only in his 50s, his hair is already gray and there is pigmentation on his face. He is like an old man named Madara. Being a ninja is a short-lived profession. It squeezes the cells in the body and speeds up metabolism to produce chakra, but the price is youth and lifespan. In such troubled times, everyone is in danger of losing their lives at any time. Only by possessing absolute power can one control one's own destiny. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen has a different understanding of the word power. When he was still young, Konoha's first Hokage Senju Hashirama passed away, and the major ninja villages also transitioned to the era of second-generation rule. Even the god of ninja will be defeated by time. From his master, Senju Tobirama, Sarutobi Hiruzen heard more than once how powerful Senju Hashirama was. But in Sarutobi Hiruzen's opinion, Senju Hashirama was still too naive. Peace? How could it be that simple? No, peace will never be achieved. Even if it is realized, it is only a temporary compromise. Beneath the surface harmony, there must be an undercurrent of desire and hatred. Interests and rights are the eternal themes. On the surface, Konoha today is a place where he has the final say, but in reality it is a community of various ninja clans and forces. As the Kage and the inheritor of the Will of Fire, he must lead Konoha towards strength. Born under the afterglow of the first generation, and grew up under the protection of the second generation. Wars between countries, open and covered fights between ninja clans. The birth of a son, a dispute with a good friend, the death of the fourth generation leader, and the strange and disappointed look of the apprentice. He doubts himself again and again. Is he really on the right path? After the death of White Fang, the disintegration of Senju, and the passing of the fourth generation couple, Sarutobi Hiruzen had compromised too many times in dealing with their orphan Uzumaki Naruto. Whenever he thought back to when Namikaze Minato chose the Shiki Fujin in the face of the Nine Tails, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help but blame himself for his cowardice. If he had chosen to seal Nine Tails back then, would the current fourth generation make Konoha a better place? With the yellow flash around, Cloud Shinobi Village certainly won't continue to harass the border of the Fire Nation as it does now, right? But when I think of the power in my hands, there is also the Sarutobi clan. Third generation's regrets vanished in an instant. Everything is for Konoha. Just as Sarutobi Hiruzen was about to continue processing the documents, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. It was difficult to breathe, I had no strength in my body, and I couldn't mobilize any chakra. Just like that, Konoha's third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, died suddenly while lying on his desk. Perhaps it was because of the excessive workload and stress in recent days, or maybe it was because he had his blood boiling from peeping into the women's bathing pool with a crystal ball an hour ago. It was also because of his peeping with the crystal ball that Umbu, who was on duty, was sent away. No one noticed that Shinobi had passed away. Just after Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart stopped beating for 3 breaths, it began beating strongly again. Taking a deep breath, Sarutobi Hiruzen sat up again. However, the original Sarutobi Hiruzen had already died, without even the chance to go to the underworld, and now the soul in this body belongs to someone else. Sun Xiaolong sat up drowsily, with many memories in his mind that did not belong to him. Konoha, ninja, war. Did he travel through time? This is the Hokage world, and he actually traveled through time and space and became Sarutobi Hiruzen? Sun Xiaolong was a little bit unbelievable. How could he have arrived in the ninja world and become Sarutobi Hiruzen in the blink of an eye? However, he immediately calmed down. In his previous life, he was not an ordinary person, but an immortal cultivator. Unfortunately, the blue planet where he was located was already in the Dharma ending age, the spiritual energy was almost exhausted, and the cultivation world had almost lost its inheritance. Sun Xiaolong is an orphan who has lived in a Taoist temple since childhood. He found an ancient book in a cave in the back mountain. The book not only contains a complete set of exercises, yin-yang body refining secrets, but also secret techniques such as alchemy and talisman making. However, after practicing hard all his life, he still stopped at the great perfection of chi refining and was unable to build a foundation. Before he died, he suddenly realized that his path to immortality on Blue Star was cut off and the chi refining stage was his limit. Sun Xiaolong was very excited that he now had the opportunity to live again. After sorting out the memories in his mind, Sun Xiaolong felt a little worried. The situation was in chaos right now, and he had traveled through time and space and knew nothing about ninjutsu. Even with Sarutobi Hiruzen's memories, he wouldn't be able to master them in a short time. Almost subconsciously, Sun Xiaolong felt the spiritual energy around him and his heart immediately started beating wildly. The spiritual energy of this hokage world is so dense that it's frightening. The spiritual energy and the power of the 5 elements in the air are very active. No wonder ninjas can spit fire and water by just making a few hand seals. This discovery made Sun Xiaolong even more excited than being reborn. After sensing the condition of this body, Sun Xiaolong's ecstatic heart immediately calmed down. It would not be an exaggeration to describe Sarutobi Hiruzen's body as being riddled with holes. The hidden injuries left by the war and the premature aging caused by the massive extraction of chakra have made him only in his 50s, but his internal organs are like those of a man in his 60s or 70s. The ecstasy of discovering the spiritual energy was diluted, and even a good cook cannot cook without rice. Even if you have abundant spiritual energy, the body is the foundation. To cultivate immortality, you must first cultivate yourself, and to cultivate the spirit, you must first cultivate the body. This so-called chakra is the product of the combination of human physical energy and spiritual energy. However, people in this world are not born with the so-called chakra. Instead, due to the arrival of the Atsutsuki clan, Atsutsuki Kagaya stole the fruit of the sacred tree and gained the power of chakra, which she then divided between her 2 sons Hamura and Hagoromo. And Yui is the sage of 6 paths, and he gave chakra to more people. But in Sun Xiaolong's opinion, this chakra is not a gift, but more like a goo. People who practice chakra are all nutrients. Chakra not only consumes the practitioner's physical and mental energy, but also constantly absorbs the natural energy around it. Chakra's path is different from his. He is cultivating immortality and seeking longevity and freedom. Chakra training was not the path he wanted to take. Although it is said that the so-called Atsutsuki clan can indeed achieve immortality after eating the fruit of the sacred tree, and even the more they eat, the stronger their power will be, but it is obvious that this kind of evil must have many limitations, and it will become more and more difficult to improve in the later stages, and eventually they will lose their true self and completely transform into demons. However, after sensing himself a little, Sun Xiaolong breathed a sigh of relief. As long as you discard the chakras in this body and use these energies to nourish yourself, you can slowly restore your body. Talent? It doesn't matter at all. As long as there is spiritual energy, there is hope. After struggling for decades in the Dharma ending age, Sun Xiaolong has a good mentality. It's like fishing. No matter how good and expensive your fishing rod and bait are, or how powerful your fishing skills are, it's all nonsense if there are no fish in the water. On the contrary, the water resources are good and you can catch fish with anything. The abundant spiritual energy in the ninja world now makes Sun Xiaolong very confident. Immediately, Sun Xiaolong frowned. His current identity is the shadow of the village. Not to mention that there are many villains in the ninja world, and many of them want to destroy the world. If he abandons all his chakra, there will be no cage-level strength left. By then, he would definitely be discovered immediately. Not to mention the ninja world, even in this village alone, there would be many people who wanted him dead. Sun Xiaolong could sense that the umbu that had been sent away by Sarutobi Hiruzen had returned and were lurking in the dark, and there were also many strong men moving around in the village. Don't be impatient. Fortunately, Sun Xiaolong's chi cultivation skills are very good. Cultivating immortals is a step-by-step process, so he has plenty of time. Sun Xiaolong made a decision immediately. He would still be the hokage, but the policy of Konoha had to be changed. Power and family are all nonsense in Sun Xiaolong's opinion. Chakra itself is fake. Even if one cultivates to the limit, without Atsutsuki blood, he can only be a wedding dress for the Atsutsuki clan. As a time traveler, he has no sense of belonging to the Sarutobi family. Without the Atsutsuki bloodline, he could at best become a cage-level warrior, and there was no point in even thinking about Super Shadow and 6 paths. After all, this chakra originally came from the Atsutsuki. The ninja clans active in the Sengoku era all had a certain amount of Atsutsuki blood, the most prominent of which were the Senju and Uchiha. Although the other families have their own secret techniques, they are still far behind the direct descendants of Atsutsuki. As the world has developed to this day, it has gone astray because of the existence of ninjas. The overall technology in the Hokage world has developed to a certain extent, and refrigerators and electrical appliances exist. However, almost no one uses hot weapons, and ninjas still mainly use cold weapons and ninjutsu to fight. There is nothing that can be done about this. In the Sengoku era, when technology was not well developed, ninjas replaced samurai. Originally, hot weapons should have replaced samurai. In addition, the Jonin themselves are relatively resistant to various technologies and thermal weapons, which has led to the world's technological development being top-heavy. More importantly, the chakras of Indra and Ashura after their deaths are still influencing the world, and their reincarnations are still the top geniuses in the ninja world. Hokage ninja? How about calling him a Satsuki legend? However, if he is not going to be the Hokage, he will definitely have to give up his chakra. What's more, there is no suitable successor in Konoha now. Kakashi? No, he doesn't have the will of fire in his heart now. Danzo, thinking of his best friends, siblings and relatives, Sun Xiaolong subconsciously shook his head. Danzo was too dark and his heart was completely blinded by power. Jiraiya? Maybe it's a good choice, but will Jiraiya agree? Jiraiya, who has the title of hero, likes to wander around the ninja world and collect information. He can't rest at all. Even if he agrees, Jiraiya will not be a qualified leader. Tsunade? The granddaughter of the first generation, a powerful medical ninjutsu master, and the only bloodline of the Senju clan. Suddenly, Sun Xiaolong's heart skipped a beat. He found that he was actually thinking according to Sarutobi Hiruzen's way of thinking. Is it the memory in his mind that has an impact on him? Then Sun Xiaolong shook his head. It didn't matter anymore. After changing his body, he would definitely suffer a lot of damage to his vitality. Both his body and soul needed recuperation and recovery. At this moment, he is Sarutobi Hiruzen. However, with different choices, the future of the ninja world and himself will also change accordingly. When he becomes a Yuenian cultivator, he can give himself a Taoist name, right? For now, he can just live as Sarutobi Hiruzen. Having lived for over 100 years in his previous life, he was still very patient. Sarutobi Hiruzen started thinking again in his mind how he should change this broken ninja world. Orochimaru, there is no doubt that Orochimaru has the highest talent among his 3 disciples, not only in training in ninjutsu, but more in scientific research. It is no exaggeration to say that Orochimaru's talent is no less than that of his teacher, Senju Tobirama. After all, Senju Tobirama also has Senju blood, and Orochimaru is just a commoner. Sarutobi Hiruzen was of course aware of the human experiments conducted by Orochimaru, but he turned a blind eye. If it wasn't Namikaze Minato, the 4th generation's destination would most likely be Orochimaru's. But Namikaze Minato is more innocent and relatively easier to control, and it is precisely because of the Hokage choice that Orochimaru's heart changes. It is not an exaggeration to describe the relationship between them now as master and disciple as being like strangers. Not only Orochimaru, but Tsunade and Jiraiya also chose to leave Konoha. As a master, he is truly a failure. Come to think of it, Orochimaru should have defected recently, right? No matter what, we cannot let Orochimaru, a talented person, slip away. He picked up the pipe, took a deep puff, and then exhaled. In the smoke, his eyes became deeper. Send Orochimaru to see me. As soon as he finished speaking, a figure flashed outside the door, and an Umbu received the order and left using the instant body technique. This feeling is really intoxicating. The Umbu who just left was at least a special Jonin, and Orochimaru's strength was infinitely close to that of a Kage. No matter where he is a powerful figure, unattainable for ordinary people, but with just one word from him, he can come and go at will. No wonder the original Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shinmura Danzo were obsessed with it. His talent stops here. He can never catch up with Senju Hashirama. It is normal for him to be obsessed with power. Orochimaru, the Hokage wants to see you. Umbu's tone wasn't very good, mainly because of Orochimaru's bad reputation. Hearing that Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to see him, Orochimaru stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. Interesting. I see. I'll go see the teacher later. Umbu's frown deepened when he saw what Orochimaru was doing. This snake-like movement is really hard to accept. The public opinion of Konoha is controlled by the root, and Orochimaru has always had a bad reputation. Danzo has contributed a lot behind the scenes. The Hokage is asking you to go over there now. The corners of Orochimaru's mouth curled up slightly, and his golden vertical pupils did not contain a trace of emotion. The Umbu suddenly felt a chill all over his body, and the feeling of being targeted by a predator made him tremble slightly. Fortunately, Orochimaru just glanced at him. I understand. I'll be there soon. He didn't dare to say anything at this time. He turned around and left quickly, but he hated Orochimaru in his heart. Did the old man find something? Orochimaru thought to himself. However, everything has been moved out and you can leave at any time. Orochimaru felt very complicated when thinking about what Sarutobi Hiruzen had done. Konoha has long been rotten. The best ending for a Konoha like this is destruction. Orochimaru went to the Hokage building anyway, rather than defecting, because he knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen was no longer the ninja hero he once was. As he got older, Sarutobi Hiruzen became more and more suspicious and more cowardly. He was only busy playing with power with Danzo, Mito Kato Homura and Udaten Koharu, and his heart was becoming weaker and weaker. Even if they knew what he did, they would not be able to take direct action against him. There's a knock on the door. Come in. Orochimaru walked into the Hokage's office and looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was behind the desk. For some reason, Orochimaru suddenly felt that something was wrong with Sarutobi Hiruzen today. The usual gloomy feeling was swept away, and even his aging body felt a little bit like a dead tree coming back to life. Looking at his beloved disciple, Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head. Orochimaru's soul is like a flickering candle flame. The human experiments and body modifications have had a significant impact on his soul, and even his body has begun to be eroded by spiritual energy. However, this spiritual energy is not pure. It should be the abnormal natural energy from the Holy Land Ryokai Cave, which bears the mark of the White Snake Immortal. Orochimaru likes to bite people and leave curse marks everywhere, but he doesn't know that every gift has a price, and he has already been marked by Ryokai Cave. Sarutobi-sensei, what's going on? Orochimaru looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen but was thinking in his mind. This may be the last time I call you teacher. Stop your experiment. I need you to do some other research. Sure enough, did the teacher discover something? Sarutobi Hiruzen knew about the human experiments, but with Danzo's support, Orochimaru did something more advanced and even unforgivable. For example, first-generation target cells, or in vivo experiments. It would be fine if they only used criminals or ninjas from other ninja villages. After thinking about defecting, Orochimaru also began to attack ninjas and civilians from his own village. However, this was not done by Orochimaru. All the materials needed for Orochimaru's experiments were provided by Danzo. Perhaps feeling that Orochimaru was a threat, Danzo spread rumors in the village. It was said that many ninjas were missing, including some Chunin and especially Jonin, and all the blame was pointed at Orochimaru. In fact, all ninja villages have done a lot of human experiments in secret. It's not that many villages don't want to conduct human experiments, but that they don't have the ability to do so. Isn't this allowed by the village? You didn't object at the time, did you? Even though Sarutobi Hiruzen was a little strange today, Orochimaru still didn't change his mind. The current third generation is very weak and particularly indecisive. The reason why this village is so corrupt is that several old teammates of the third generation have become the decision makers of the village. After several generations of Hokage in Konoha village, the class structure had become solidified by the time of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Excellent ninjas will be suppressed, and when they have the opportunity to get close to the power center of Konoha, they will even be attacked by rumors and public opinion. It's ridiculous that a village founded with the dream of peace ended up like this. He is the apprentice of the third generation. As long as they don't have a falling out, the third generation will not do anything to him. Orochimaru was even certain that even if he defected, the third generation would not be heartbroken but would be relieved instead. I plan to train you to be the next Hokage. Do you want to be the Hokage's assistant? After saying this, Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes sharpened. I am old, like a rotten root, which will only consume the nutrients of Konoha in vain. You are willing to assist me, cut off the rotten roots, burn away the dead branches and leaves, and make the tree of Konoha grow stronger. After saying this, Sarutobi Hiruzen put down his pipe and looked at Orochimaru. At this moment, Shinobi's momentum was like a raging storm, and Orochimaru seemed to see the teacher he admired when he was young. The third generation's words were like a sharp sword that pierced the deepest part of Orochimaru's heart. Hokage assistant? Isn't it too late now? Orochimaru's heart was trembling, and even his eyes felt a little sore. Sarutobi-sensei, stop joking. Orochimaru didn't believe that the increasingly pedantic third-generation members could say such words. How could they cut off the root of corruption? Didn't I tell Danzo a few days ago that without a developed root system, Konoha would not be able to flourish? The third generation was probably still testing him, or maybe they saw through his thoughts of defecting and wanted to give him a warning. Orochimaru forced himself to calm down, but there was still a glimmer of hope and luck in his heart. Perhaps what his teacher said was true, and he really changed his mind and realized that Konoha was already decayed. The roots steal nutrients in the dark, and the elders and most of the senior officials are like termites, using all kinds of power and village resources to expand their own families. In this case, what is the point of the Senju choosing to abandon the name of Senju, integrate into Konoha, and strive for the rise of the common people? No matter how lofty the ideal is, it cannot outweigh one's own selfish desires. Sarutobi Hiruzen laughed out loud at Orochimaru's words. As a Hokage, he is indeed a failure. Orochimaru, you're scared. You're afraid that I'm deceiving you and testing you, but that's not what I really think. I just want to control you. Yes, Orochimaru was indeed afraid. If he was the Orochimaru who was competing with Namikaze Minato for the position of Hokage, he would definitely not hesitate for a moment. But after going through so much and realizing that the third generation never wanted him to be Hokage, Orochimaru no longer trusted his master. Sarutobi Hiruzen raised his head and looked directly at the disciple he once had high hopes for. Danzo and the two elders are corrupt. They have too much influence on Konoha. Are you willing to join me in taking them down and changing this Konoha? Orochimaru realized that this might be his only chance in this life, and it is our duty to restore the glory of Konoha. Orochimaru, you have always been my best and most trusted disciple. Sarutobi Hiruzen's tone was firm. For him, Orochimaru is a very good scientific research talent. In a world with backward technology, such talents are the most valuable. Orochimaru was speechless for a moment. He had many questions in his mind, but Princess Hiruzen's words touched the softest part of his heart. If there was no choice, who would want to be a rebel ninja? But I can't turn back anymore. Orochimaru's voice was low. He was once a supporter of the will of fire and had put in a lot of effort for Konoha. If it weren't for the fact that Namikaze Minato's brilliance was too dazzling, he would definitely be the most suitable successor to the Hokage. Namikaze Minato is cheerful and sunny, nicknamed Little Sunday. There is no normal person who dislikes him. As for him, Orochimaru, he is cold and evil, and makes people shudder at the sight of him. He has always had the worst reputation among the Sannin. After failing in the competition, his heart became darker and darker. After seeing through the true nature of this world, he only had one goal left, and that was eternal life. In a way, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru are now pursuing the same goal. They are all eternal life. However, what Sarutobi Hiruzen pursued was the immortality of the body and the indestructibility of the soul. But now Orochimaru has begun to take a detour. Living corpse reincarnation technique, it's a joke. Fortunately, Sarutobi Hiruzen could see that Orochimaru had not yet changed his body. Orochimaru was a little confused. In order to achieve his goals, he conducted too many experiments and destroyed too many lives. How could he become Hokage? At this time, in Orochimaru's heart, the title of Hokage was still sacred. Help me clear all obstacles, and together we will make Konoha the strongest in the ninja world again. In fact, I have always been dissatisfied with the current world situation. Perhaps we can choose to take action against the daimyo and completely control this country. If Sarutobi Hiruzen hadn't set up a soundproof barrier in advance, his conversation with Orochimaru would have caused not only a stir in Konoha, but the entire ninja world would have been in turmoil if it had been spread. Okay, I do. Sarutobi Hiruzen had said this, and Orochimaru could naturally tell that his teacher was not joking. Sarutobi's words made his heart beat wildly. His teacher actually wanted to attack the daimyo? The teacher is really old, but seems trustworthy. Go back and wait for my news. Good. Orochimaru nodded and left the Hokage's office. No matter what, he really needed to go back quickly. Whether he defected or really became an elder of Konoha, he needed to finish up the experiments he was conducting. It is very easy to destroy evidence. With Danzo captured and the remaining 2 advisors, and with Orochimaru's help, plus the current ninjas in Konoha village, he felt relatively relieved. The shadows in this ninja world can at best be comparable to ordinary foundation building monks, and the strongest ones are just able to apply what they have learned to other situations. They can borrow the power of blood or chakra to leverage a trace of the power of the laws. But his spirit was extremely weak, and his body was even more rotten inside. The spiritual energy in this world is so rich that Sarutobi Hiruzen feels that he can even look forward to the formation of a Dan Yuanying. After dealing with Orochimaru's side, the only obstacle left was a few people from the Elders' Council. Power is built bit by bit, and the ruling class is established bit by bit through interpersonal relationships. In the present Konoha, Yuditen Koharu and Mito Kato Homura, advisors to the Hokage, and Shimura Danzo, the leader of the Root, were all former teammates of Sarutobi Hiruzen. At that time, he was also a member of the second generation's elite guard team. It can be said that they are the direct descendants of Konoha cultivated by the second generation. At the same time, the Uchiha clan was targeted and the influence of the Senju clan on Konoha was downplayed. Let Konoha no longer be a place where a certain ninja clan has the final say. Imagination is beautiful, but reality is cruel. Some of the second generation's disciples were from the ninja clan, and some were born as commoners, but after the second generation's death, they were corrupted by power too quickly. They completely abandoned the idea of revenge from their predecessors and began to be complacent, guarding Konoha's small piece of land and infighting to consume their own resources. Even the current third generation can have the title of strongest Hokage. How funny is that? In front of the 2 Senju brothers, how could Sarutobi Hiruzen's level be compared with them, let alone be called the strongest Hokage? Sarutobi Hiruzen thought about it and couldn't help but laugh. It's really ridiculous. This so-called ninja world, whether it is ideology, culture, or training system, is too superficial. Or in other words, the emergence of chakra has led the human civilization of this world onto a wrong path. Although chakra practice also depends on aptitude, the requirements are not too high, and what matters is quick success. The fact that children who have been trained for several years can go to the battlefield and possess combat capabilities far exceeding those of ordinary people is enough to prove that training ninjas is not that difficult. But to ordinary people, ninjas are still mysterious and powerful, but even so, ninjas still need to take on missions to earn rewards. At the same time, Konoha is just a vassal of the Land of Fire. Even as the Hokage, he needs to be respectful when meeting the daimyo of Konoha. Putting the cart before the horse. Since they possess powers beyond ordinary people, they should leave the secular world, but these ninjas are willing to become appendages of power. Shaking his head, Sarutobi Hiruzen stopped thinking about these questions. If you are poor, you should take care of yourself. If you are rich, you should help the world. Orochimaru's side has been dealt with, but on the elder's side, the one who probably needs to worry the most is Danzo. Cultivating immortals requires a lot of resources. The position of Hokage cannot be given up, and Konoha also needs to become stronger. The current Danzo has not yet obtained Shisui's eyes. At most, he cooperates with Orochimaru and transplants the Sharingan to be able to perform as Inagi. But to be honest, Danzo is not strong, otherwise he wouldn't be like Orochimaru, trying every possible means to obtain the power of Uchiha. While he kept saying that the Uchiha clan would threaten Konoha, he secretly hated that his last name was Shimura instead of Uchiha. We still need to deal with Danzo and not allow Konoha to experience too much turmoil. His identity as Sarutobi Hiruzen the third Hokage meant that he could not remain immune and leave Konoha directly. The memories in this body might become a demon in his heart in the future. Cultivation requires wealth, friends, dharma, and place. After he disperses the chakras in his body, he will be no different from an ordinary person in a short period of time. There are only two choices: stay in Konoha or leave. If he leaves Konoha, where can he go? The ninja world is not peaceful. In addition to ninjas, there is also the summoning beast clan. These spirit beasts cultivate natural energy. Although it is not orthodox, animals are born with natural energy in the way of cultivation and can absorb and exhale the essence of the sun and the moon without the need for any techniques. Will the appearance of him as an immortal cultivator attract their attention? After Orochimaru left, Sarutobi Hiruzen thought for a while, then gave an order and called all his trusted men in Umbu over. It has to be said that Sarutobi Hiruzen was once more talented in Machiavellian technique than in ninjutsu. The third generation are called ninjutsu doctors, although most of their ninjutsu are not up to standard and are of no use to masters. However, the lethality of compound ninjutsu to low-level ninjas is self-evident. It is a definite killer weapon on the battlefield. When it comes to creating his character, it can't be said that he did a very good job, but except for a few people, there is no one in Konoha, from top to bottom, who does not recognize him, Sarutobi Hiruzen. In the eyes of the villagers, Sarutobi Hiruzen is strong and upright, and is the great Hokage who allows them to live a good life. In the eyes of most ninjas, Sarutobi Hiruzen is also worthy of respect. Only a small number of ninjas who have truly been hurt by power know that Sarutobi Hiruzen is the greatest darkness in Konoha. After looking at the documents on the table, Sarutobi Hiruzen decided that it would be better to leave these things to give Orochimaru a headache. We left the Hokage building and strolled through the streets of Konoha. It's Hokage-sama. The children were so excited after seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen. The penetration of the will of fire is all-encompassing. The common dream of most children in Konoha is to become Hokage. Hokage-sama. I want to be a ninja as good as you in the future. A little boy with a runny nose broke free from his mother's arms and ran to Sarutobi Hiruzen, his tone full of longing. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama. The woman dressed as a housewife walked over quickly and looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with a bit of fear and restraint. I know my child's level very well. He is naughty every day and ranks last in the ninja school. She is just an ordinary person and her husband, a genin, cannot provide much help to the children. The only prayer is that war will not come and that our children will not go to the battlefield early. Hokage? Too far away. Almost subconsciously, Sarutobi Hiruzen reached out and touched the boy's forehead. Work hard towards your dreams. I believe you can succeed. After saying that, Sarutobi Hiruzen left, leaving the stunned boy and a group of people discussing. Yuta, don't act so crazy next time. Mom, I will definitely become Hokage. Looking at her son, her smile was a little bitter, maybe. Sarutobi Hiruzen no longer had the heart to hang out in Konoha and quickly returned to the Sarutobi clan's mansion in Konoha. Just from the Sarutobi family's mansion, one can see Sarutobi Hiruzen's influence in Konoha. The largest families in Konoha are undoubtedly the Senju and the Uchiha, and the rest are the Hyuga clan and the esoteric families such as the Ino, Shika, Cho. However, the Senju clan has disappeared and merged into Konoha, which is also the fundamental reason why Konoha's geniuses emerge in large numbers. However, the sacrifice of the Senju clan did not achieve the expected effect. Originally, the two Senju brothers, the first generation and second generation of Konoha, planned to make the remaining families of Konoha, like the Senju, give up their families and bloodlines and completely integrate into Konoha. Such a Konoha will surely become stronger and stronger. Thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head. Senju Hashirama was really too naive. Imagination is beautiful, but reality is cruel. Not to mention the corruption of Konoha's third-generation leaders such as Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo. The difference in talents between people alone is enough to make this idea fail. The powerful Senju bloodline did lead to the emergence of many civilian geniuses in Konoha later on, but the secret techniques of most of the Konoha families could not be passed on to outsiders. Take the Inyazuka and Abarame clans for example. Both clans' bodies have been altered in response to their summoning beasts and mystical techniques. In the course of inheritance from generation to generation, the bodies of the Inyazuka clan have already acquired some canine characteristics, and the Abarame clan even has to transform their bodies in order to accommodate more insects. How can these secret arts be passed on? Even if these families put aside their prejudices and let the common people learn these secret arts, it would be a loss-making thing. The secret technique of Ino, Shika, Cho requires a natural talent for yin-yang escape techniques. Senju Hashirama's ideas are just empty talk after all. Father. After returning to the mansion, Sarutobi Hiruzen's eldest son, Sarutobi Shinashuk, greeted him respectfully. Sarutobi Hiruzen had two sons, Sarutobi Shinashuk and Sarutobi Asuma. To be honest, the ninja talents of these two sons are average. At this time, Sarutobi Shinashuk was a jonin, and Sarutobi Asuma was not in Konoha because he had a conflict with Sarutobi Hiruzen in the previous 2 years. He left Konoha and became one of the 12 guardian ninjas who protected the daimyo of the Land of Fire. Daimyo are ordinary people, but whether in the Land of Fire or any other country in this world, the number of ordinary people far exceeds that of ninjas. Ninjas are engaged in assassinations but not in production, and they cannot do without ordinary people in their daily lives. Because of the existence of ninjas, the daimyo were actually quite nice to ordinary people. They did not overexploit ordinary people, and there was no slave class in the social structure. In addition, in ancient times when there were no ninjas, it was these nobles who ruled the people, and this tradition has led to the current situation. Although it is not difficult to train a ninja, there are very few people who have the talent to become a ninja. This led to Konoha and the Fire Nation being wary of each other, yet at the same time dependent on each other. Simply put, for countries like the Land of Fire and the Land of Lightning, ninjas are military forces, strong people above cage level are weapons of mass destruction, and the tailed beasts are strategic nuclear weapons. So there were constant wars between ninjas, but there was still relative peace between countries. Sarutobi Asuma, as the son of Hokage, became one of the 12 guardian ninjas, which is really unreasonable. However, thinking of Asuma's talent, Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed. The two most powerful aspects of the Sarutobi clan are the first being the 5 elements of ninjutsu that have all 5 attributes, and the second being the ability to summon the Sarutobi clan. Summoning beasts are also divided into different levels. The Monkey King can not only transform into a weapon, but also can cast hand seals and perform ninjutsu on his own, and can also undergo partial changes. After long-term training with Sarutobi Hiruzen, he developed a unique tactic. Neither Sarutobi Asuma nor Sarutobi Shinashuk were recognized by the Monkey King clan, which shows that their talents are indeed limited. Sarutobi Hiruzen once thought more than once about training his two sons to become Hokage. Let the name of Hokage be completely tied to Konoha, and let Konoha Shinobi Village become the back garden of the Sarutobi clan. Unfortunately, if you want to become Hokage, you definitely cannot do so without sufficient strength. Sarutobi Hiruzen's father, Sarutobi Suzuki, is also a Grandmaster 5 Elements ninja. Sarutobi Suzuki is also a highly recognized ninja, and even the Uchiha clan respects him. The name Uchiha Suzuki is actually a tribute to this ninja. Sarutobi Asuma only has the wind attribute, and Sarutobi Shinashuk inherited the earth attribute, and they did not inherit the 5 attributes in a consistent manner. Looking at his son and daughter-in-law, Sarutobi Hiruzen felt a little complicated. In his previous life, he lived for more than 100 years as a cultivator, so naturally his bloodline was passed down, and his family also had considerable influence in the secular world. However, all of this is nothing but illusion in the face of immortality. 100 years of wealth and glory is nothing but a passing cloud. No matter how noble your status is, in the end you are still just a handful of earth, right? Shinashuk, Mukoha these days. There may be some turmoil, so you must be prepared and lead the Sarutobi clan to be on standby at all times. Sarutobi Shinashuk's eyes suddenly widened and he looked at his father in disbelief. He knew his father very well and knew that to Sarutobi Hiruzen, Konoha was his place of authority. Today, the Sarutobi clan has become very prosperous, with an increasing number of members, and is showing signs of becoming one of the biggest pearls of Konoha. In fact, as the son of Sarutobi Hiruzen, he was under a lot of pressure. Although Sarutobi Hiruzen keeps saying that everything is for him and Asuma, and that he works so hard to make the family better, in fact, this is just Sarutobi Hiruzen's wishful thinking. With such talent and different ambitions, what does it matter if it is forced upon you? I'm not kidding. Get ready and have the tribesmen on standby. Why, Shinashuk, who is usually very dissatisfied with Sarutobi Hiruzen's bureaucratic practices, is now somewhat dissatisfied. He even suspects that Sarutobi Hiruzen is going to take action against the Uchiha clan. You just need to listen to me. With your strength, you are not yet able to participate in the village's decision-making. Sarutobi Hiruzen was blunt and didn't give Shinashuk any face. Such direct words stunned Sarutobi Shinashuk. In his impression, Sarutobi Hiruzen had never been so direct. Okay, as my direct umbu, you just need to follow my orders. Seeing Sarutobi Shinoshuke's look, Sarutobi Hiruzen softened his heart and started to explain. In his memory, Sarutobi Shinoshuke and his daughter-in-law Sarutobi Hinata were killed in a mission. However, Sarutobi Kanoamaro had already been born at that time, and Hinata was not pregnant yet, which meant that there were still several years before anything happened to the two of them. Watching his son die young was certainly impossible. As a former modern man, Sarutobi Hiruzen was not the kind of cultivator who only knew how to practice asceticism. He knew very well that cultivators were not immortals and were not much different from humans. Before one's cultivation reached a certain level, a person's power was very limited. In his previous life, he was able to reach the great perfection of chi refining because with the help of his family, he collected many rare herbs from all over the world. Living a new life, he needs the power of his family and the help of the village. If Konoha becomes stronger, it will only benefit him, not harm him. At the same time, as a father, he also didn't want Shinoshuke to die young. Okay, don't feel any pressure. Being a guiding jonin will be good too. It will also be good to lead the genin team in the future. After saying that, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at his daughter-in-law, Sarutobi Hinateko. You two have been married for a while now. When will I be able to hold my grandchild? Do you want me to count on that brat Asuma? When talking about this topic, Sarutobi Hinako's face instantly turned red. She was born in a commoner family, her talent was not very good, and now she was just a chinin, so she did not have such great ambitions. Rather than fighting for power, she would rather stay at home and take care of her husband and children. Seeing that Sarutobi Shinoshuke wanted to say something, Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand. I have made the decision. Just follow my instructions and have the family members on standby. After hearing his father say this, Sarutobi Shinoshuke realized that the man under the fire hat was already old and hunched. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen is only about 163 centimeters tall, and his gray hair and the appearance of old man Madara on his face all indicate that the third hokage who has been in power in Konoha village for the longest time, who created the heyday of Konoha and also led Konoha to its decline, is already old. Shinoshuke nodded silently and said nothing more. Don't spread this matter. After saying that, Sarutobi Hiruzen returned to his room. During the Nine Tails Rebellion, his wife Sarutobi Biwako passed away, and now he is alone. However, this is also in line with Sarutobi Hiruzen's wishes. After he disperses this chakra to nourish his body, if someone is around him day and night, they will definitely notice it. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Sarutobi Hiruzen began to examine the aging body. Cultivation is to travel alone in the sea of suffering. The sea of suffering is boundless and the body is the boat. The only thing you can trust is your own body. This is the path of practice of Sarutobi Hiruzen. After reaching the nascent soul stage, all the essence of blood and flesh will be refined in the nascent soul. Even if the physical body is destroyed, as long as the nascent soul still exists, a new physical body can be created. But even if it is a newly created body, it is still one's own bloodline, and taking over another's body is a big taboo in cultivation. However, when Sun Xiaolong traveled to Sarutobi Hiruzen's body, he did not feel any obscure feelings except for the extra memories in his mind. Zhuangzhou dreamed of a butterfly and the butterfly dreamed of Zhuangzhou. Who knows what's going on? The only thing he can trust now is this aging body. Because of the development of chakra, cells throughout the body divide excessively, and ninjas always age faster. The current Sarutobi Hiruzen can no longer support the title of ninja hero. When he was young, Sarutobi Hiruzen made his name in wars. With his 5-style compound ninjutsu, he was a devastating weapon on the battlefield. It seems natural that he has all these hidden injuries. Fortunately, apart from hidden injuries, he has no hidden illnesses, his limbs are still intact, and his body functions can function normally. In this case, as long as I find some herbs to refine pills, and with the abundant spiritual energy in this world, I can slowly recover. Taking a deep breath, Sarutobi Hiruzen began to try to absorb the spiritual energy. Although the spiritual energy of this world is rich, its properties are very mixed. Even Sarutobi Hiruzen can feel that a small part of the spiritual energy is polluted. This should be related to the so-called Holy Land, that is, the area where the summoning beast lives. These summoning beasts call aura natural energy. By absorbing aura, they gain a long life, a huge body, and different special abilities. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's opinion, these guys are just some insignificant little demons. Absorbing spiritual energy into the body was like a dead tree coming back to life. Sarutobi Hiruzen could feel the aging body's desire for spiritual energy. However, cultivation is something that cannot be rushed. Absorbing some spiritual energy now is also a way to prepare for the next plan. Currently, the biggest obstacle to completely controlling the entire Konoha is Shinura Danzo. The Dark One in the ninja world is of average strength, just on the edge of being a shadow. However, Danzo should have already started human trials, received the first-generation target cells, and started transplanting Sharingan into his body. At this time, the Uchiha had not yet rebelled, let alone been exterminated, and Shisuizai had not yet been obtained by Danzo. The filial son Uchiha Itachi is still young and not a concern. The number of Sharingan transplanted into Danzo's body must be limited, and it can only allow him to perform as Inagi a few times. Danzo and his roots can bully ordinary ninjas, but they have to avoid them when they encounter real strong ones. This is also the endpoint of most civilian ninjas, so Danzo believes that if he wants to become stronger, he can only rely on the power of Uchiha. Danzo hates and fears Uchiha the most, and sees Uchiha as a time bomb, a force that can destroy Konoha at any time. In fact, in essence, Danzo is more jealous of the power of the Uchiha bloodline. If he can't get it, he will destroy it, and at the same time he wants to take the power of Uchiha for himself. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's current opinion, such an act was extremely cowardly. Uchiha is the sharp knife of Konoha, and it might be more appropriate to call the Uchiha clan the clan of love. Although the Uchiha who turn from love to hate will have extremely powerful strength, in fact, the Uchiha clan is also very pure. It is enough to just cultivate their recognition and sense of belonging to the village. After dealing with all these obstacles in Danzo and the village, a child from the Uchiha clan would be a good choice as a disciple. From the history of Konoha, we can find that Hokage is of the same lineage. The first generation and the second generation are brothers, the third generation are disciples of the second generation, and the fourth generation are the granddisciples of the third generation. The entire Konoha is inherited from each other in the direct line or the master-disciple relationship. Sarutobi Hiruzen accepting an Uchiha as his apprentice is considered to be giving the Uchiha clan a hope of becoming Hokage. Will he still be afraid of the Uchiha rebelling at that time? In fact, Uchiha is not that scary. The second generation is so wary of Uchiha because Senju and Uchiha are sworn enemies. Being friends with an Uchiha is definitely better than being his enemy, because you may say something wrong, which may cause the Uchiha to explode temporarily and kill you instantly with one-eye technique. However, due to historical issues and personal prejudices, the second generation was too prejudiced against Uchiha, especially after the death of Uchiha Kagami, the mediator. Under the influence of Danzo, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Konoha were too targeted against Uchiha. Elsewhere, Orochimaru left the Hokage building in a trance and headed towards his own laboratory. Should I leave or stay? Can I really trust what the teacher says? Deep down, Orochimaru had completely trusted Sarutobi Hiruzen's words, but the stark reality forced him to doubt. What exactly happened to cause Sarutobi Hiruzen to change so much? He was actually determined to take down the Supreme Danzo, and even made him the assistant of the Hokage and an elder of Konoha. Perhaps, the death of fourth generation in Sarutobi Biwako was too much of a blow to the teacher. As soon as I returned to the laboratory, a ninja appeared next to me. Orochimaru, Lord Danzo wants to see you. At this time, the third generation suddenly wanted to meet Orochimaru, which made Danzo a little confused. Human experiments definitely require materials. Recently, not only villagers have been missing, but even Chunin and Special Jonin have disappeared. This is naturally Danzo's work. Orochimaru took all the blame, because Danzo knew that if the third generation wanted to step down, then Orochimaru would be one of the best candidates, and he would kill it even if there was the slightest possibility. He only needed to use a little trick to make sure Orochimaru had no place to stay in Konoha. After all, Orochimaru himself was not clean, and none of the experiments he did would ever see the light of day. Orochimaru smiled playfully when he heard that Danzo wanted to see him. Danzo, you could never have imagined that the teacher would not be greedy for power or indecisive this time, right? I'll go when I have time. The masked root ninja was about to get angry, but when he looked up, he saw Orochimaru's weird golden vertical pupil staring at him, and the words on his lips were immediately choked back. He gave Orochimaru a fierce glare and left with a body flicker technique. Orochimaru didn't care. There was no turning back now. He just had to trust his teacher. What's more, Orochimaru's fighting ability may not be the best among cage-level warriors, but his ability to save his life is definitely first-rate. All we need to do is quickly clean up the unforgivable evidence of human experimentation, such as the first-generation cell-related experiments, and the bodies of the dead collected for impure world reincarnation also need to be returned to their original locations. At the root headquarters, Danzo did not get angry after hearing that Orochimaru refused to come. Konoha is now at its most empty moment. The war with Cloud Shinobi Village is nearing its end. If something happens to Orochimaru at this time, Cloud Shinobi Village may not let it go so easily. Hiruzen is old, and he has transplanted the first generation's target cells, and his current health is much better than Hiruzen's. Even if he had to endure it, he would outlast Hiruzen and then ascend to the position of Hokage. By then, he will no longer be a root hiding under the trees, but a dignified Hokage. He will surely lead Konoha to the top. Basically, Danzo has this beautiful dream every day. For the Hokage, he can sacrifice everything, and others can also sacrifice everything. In the innermost temple of Mount Mayaboku, the Great Toad Sage awakens from his sleep. Fate has been broken, and the future of the ninja world can no longer be predicted. As a monster that has lived for thousands of years, Gamamaru once fought alongside the Sage of Six Paths at Satsuki Hamura was resurrected because he offered the Toad Kingdom's treasure, the Sage's talisman. It can be said that if there was no Gamamaru, the current ninja world would still be under the rule of its Satsuki Kagaya. Its proudest ability is that it can predict the future in its sleep. But just now, everything was shrouded in fog. The future of the ninja world was no longer predictable, and the future of the Toad clan also became uncertain. This made Toad Pill a little overwhelmed. No matter how chaotic the ninja world is, the Summoning Beast clan will sit back and watch those stupid humans fight and kill each other. But now, the future of this world has become uncertain, and it can even be felt that some changes are taking place in the world. This made him, who had been in control of everything, start to panic. Quick, call Jiraiya over here. Hero Jiraiya, one of the third generation's target disciples. His work Intimate Paradise became popular throughout the ninja world. At the same time, he was carrying out the mission of finding the Son of Prophecy and wandering around the entire ninja world. In fact, before this, the former Sarutobi Hiruzen had wanted Jiraiya to inherit the position of Hokage more than once, but he refused every time. The current Sarutobi Hiruzen is not planning to pass the position of Hokage to someone else. Jiraiya has the reputation of being a hero, but he is too indecisive and cannot settle down. He is not a suitable candidate for the Hokage. Otherwise, the fourth Hokage would not be his disciple Namikaze Minato. Jiraiya, who was collecting folk songs, suddenly felt a distorted space fluctuation. This was the reverse summoning technique. This made Jiraiya's heart tighten. Could it be that something happened in Konoha that required Mount Mayaboku to summon him? Obeying the summoning technique, Jiraiya appeared at Mount Mayaboku. Master Jiraiya, the Great Toad Sage is looking for you. This time, Jiraiya appeared directly outside the temple where the Great Toad Sage was. A little toad said something to Jiraiya, slowly opened the door of the temple, and waited for Jiraiya to enter. Taking a deep breath, Jiraiya walked into the temple. This time, the Great Toad Sage did not doze off, but sat upright in his seat. The moment Jiraiya came in, Great Toad Sage instantly looked at him. Jiraiya, has anything big happened in the ninja world recently? Even as the #1 tool man of Mount Mayaboku, it is not easy for Jiraiya to meet the Great Toad Sage. This was the first time Jiraiya saw the Great Toad Sage so nervous. Jiraiya's current strength is definitely inseparable from the help of Mount Mayaboku. However, Mount Mayaboku is both the cause of success and failure. Jiraiya has spent his entire life running for the so-called prophecy of the Great Toad Sage. Find the so-called child of prophecy and put this person who can bring change to the ninja world on the right track. Jiraiya paid too much for this so-called prophecy. No, although there have been constant frictions between ninja villages and the ninja world recently, nothing major has happened. Jiraiya shook his head. He had always been active on the front line of the ninja world, and the recent ninja world was indeed just as he said, nothing major had happened. The Great Toad Sage looked at Jiraiya. At this moment, he felt very complicated. He had lived for more than 1,000 years and his strength was even not inferior to that of the Sage of Six Paths. The natural energy accumulated in his body was unfathomable. But even so, it is still so small in the face of fate. However, after getting used to the established fate, the future now becomes unpredictable, and its heart begins to panic. The past is shrouded in fog, and the future is no longer known. Jiraiya, although it may be irresponsible to say this, from today on, you don't have to look for the child of prophecy anymore. Jiraiya opened his mouth, not knowing what to say for a moment. He has been searching for half his life, from Uzumaki Nagato to Namikaze Minato, both of whom he believed were the children of prophecy who could change the ninja world, but both of these apprentices met with accidents. He had doubted more than once whether the Great Toad Sage's prophecy was correct, but he convinced himself every time. Now, he was suddenly told not to look for the child of prophecy anymore. How could he accept this? Great Toad Sage, what on earth does this mean? Senin Fukazaku and Senin Shima, who were standing by, felt a little sorry for Jiraiya. The Great Toad Sage is high above, usually wandering in dreams. It is these two who have watched Jiraiya grow from childhood to where he is today. It is not an easy thing to accept that you are not the one chosen by fate and can only be the guide of the destined child. Now suddenly telling Jiraiya that all your previous persistence and pursuit are meaningless, could there be anything more cruel than this? From today on, I can no longer predict the future. The future direction of the ninja world is no longer fixed, and the child of prophecy no longer exists. The meaning of the Great Toad Sage is simple: the future of the ninja world is no longer an established reality, but an unknown full of uncertainty. Under such circumstances, even if the so-called child of prophecy is found, it is highly likely that this child of prophecy will not be able to bring change and peace to the ninja world as predicted. So what should I do? Jiraiya was confused. He was a great hero, one of the Sunin of Konoha, the author of the Intimate series, and a playboy who loved playing games. At this moment, he had temporarily lost his goal in life. Go and enjoy your life. You don't have to shoulder the mission of finding the child of prophecy anymore. The Great Toad Sage looked at Jiraiya and shook his head. Mount Mayaboku will be closed recently, and I will be in seclusion for a while. You can also pay attention to whether there are any recent events in the ninja world. If you find anything, come back and report it in time. Life is short, so do what you want to do. After saying that, Great Toad Sage closed his eyes. Enjoying your own life and doing what you want to do, is this really what a ninja should do? Jiraiya was actually willful enough, doing what he wanted to do and refusing the village's arrangements, but now the belief he had in his heart suddenly disappeared, making him very confused. Should I follow the teacher's arrangements and return to Konoha to become Hokage? But when he thought of the darkness in Konoha, Jiraiya hesitated again. Wasn't leaving Konoha also a way of getting away from the political disputes? Konoha was established with the best of intentions, but now it is filled with intrigue. Jiraiya watched Sarutobi Hiruzen transform step by step from a heroic ninja into a bear ninja. He knew very well that power can have a huge impact on a person. Jiraiya repeatedly rejected Sarutobi Hiruzen's request to become Hokage. In addition to looking for the child of prophecy, a big part of the reason was because Jiraiya was worried that he would become the next Sarutobi Hiruzen and get lost in power. However, perhaps he can change the darkness of Konoha? After becoming Hokage, will Tsunade's opinion of him change? And will Orochimaru, who is still in Konoha, also have to obey his orders? Thinking of this, Jiraiya felt a little bit of desire for the position of Hokage. After all, having lived in Konoha since childhood, it is normal for his dream to become Hokage. Unfortunately, even if Jiraiya wants to become Hokage now, it is too late. Sarutobi Hiruzen has become a cultivator, so his lifespan will definitely be greatly extended. He can sit in the position of Hokage for a very long time. The times need progress, and ninjas will eventually be eliminated. When Sarutobi Hiruzen has mastered his training, he will definitely choose to attack the Otsutsuki clan. At that time, ninjas who use chakra will have an inherent disadvantage when facing the Otsutsuki clan. The nourishment of Reiki to the body and soul is in stark contrast to the squeezing and extraction of cells by chakra. According to Sarutobi Hiruzen's speculation, the Uzumaki and Senju clan's strong vitality and chakra are because they are more adaptable to chakra. After all, they are descendants of the Otsutsuki clan. The physical body of the Senju and the spiritual body of the Uchiha complement each other, which means that for the Otsutsuki clan, the dangers of practicing chakra are much less than that of ordinary ninjas. Ordinary ninjas are nutrients. The Otsutsuki clan evolves by devouring the fruits of the sacred tree. Ordinary ninjas desperately practice chakra, but they are just exploiting themselves. Unfortunately, living in this chaotic world, everyone is helpless, and the chakra that consumes life is actually a life-saving straw. For Sarutobi Hiruzen now, he cannot give up his chakra. Only after he defeats Danzo and the elders in the village and stabilizes Konoha, can he start formal training. Now, absorbing spiritual energy is more to strengthen one's soul and avoid being affected by various illusions. Soon, it was the next day. For most people in Konoha, today was no different than any other day. But the big families in Konoha all felt the undercurrent. Sarutobi Hiruzen, however, did not go directly to the Hokage's office, but walked to a corner of Konoha's residential area. There is no way around it. The sins committed in the previous life must be repaid. I came to a house and knocked gently on the door. The person who opened the door was a middle-aged woman, who was visibly horrified when she saw Sarutobi Hiruzen. Mr. Third Generation, why are you here? Sarutobi Hiruzen ignored her and walked straight into the house. There was a crib in the room inside, with a yellow-haired child lying on it, sleeping soundly. However, the child was obviously malnourished and slept a little too deeply. Ashura's successor, the true child of prophecy, Uzumaki Naruto. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen doubted that if it weren't for the Uzumaki clan's strong vitality, coupled with Ashura's chakra and the existence of the Nine Tails, Naruto might have died long ago. The woman outside was the nanny that the village found for Naruto. It looked like she definitely didn't take good care of Naruto. She might have even given Naruto sleeping pills in order to make him cry less. This is the result of Danzo shifting the conflict. The destruction of the village by Nine Tails made the villagers resentful. As the Nine Tails Jinchuriki and the son of the fourth generation, Naruto would obviously be a threat. However, this has nothing to do with the present Sarutobi Hiruzen. A child is still a child, and an orphan of a hero, so this is not appropriate. Mr. Third Generation, let me pour you a glass of water. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't say anything, but his aura was fully revealed as he turned to look at the woman. The murderous intent and the huge amount of chakra made the woman fall to her knees. She opened her mouth to say something, but the huge pressure strangled her throat, making her even feel that her heart was about to stop beating. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen just glanced at her and then put away his momentum. Is this how you take care of a child? I don't care what you think or what anyone tells you to do. If there's anything wrong with this child, your whole family will be sent to the torture department. Seeing the woman kneeling on the ground without saying anything, Sarutobi Hiruzen asked again. The woman reacted and apologized quickly. She cried and explained that she was forced to do it, but it didn't seem to make sense that she could have such great malice towards such a young child. There is only one reason why he is so scared: he doesn't want to be sent to Konoha's torture department. As we all know, Konoha's torture department is as famous as the root in Orochimaru's laboratory. Once you go in, you will inevitably be skinned. The interrogation department does more than just torture. It uses various secret techniques and illusions to obtain information directly from deep within the brain, which is likely to lead to dementia or serious mental problems. I don't care who told you what, or what you were asked to do. I only look at the results. Do you understand? The woman nodded timidly, and Sarutobi Hiruzen said nothing more. I walked over to Naruto and felt him. The vitality in his body was surprisingly strong, just a little malnourished. Perhaps because he felt the relatively familiar chakra, Naruto woke up from his sleep, and after waking up he started to cry. What are you standing there for? Sarutobi Hiruzen turned to look at the woman, who was trembling all over, not understanding what Sarutobi Hiruzen meant. The child is crying like this, what else can it be except that he is hungry? What on earth are you here for? The woman was the wet nurse that Konoha found for Naruto. After all, Kushina had passed away, and feeding without breast milk would not work. But Naruto drinks several times more milk than her own child every day, so her own child is often not full. At first she didn't dare to have any bad thoughts, but as time went on, her dissatisfaction with Naruto gradually increased. After testing him step by step, it finally led to the situation today. In the final analysis, it was because Konoha did not care enough about Naruto, allowing a fourth-generation orphan who died for Konoha to live such a life. Konoha was truly rotten from beginning to end. The scolded woman didn't care about anything else when she thought that her whole family would be sent to the torture department. She just pulled down her clothes and started feeding Naruto. Naruto was just hungry, and he stopped crying soon after eating. Sarutobi Hiruzen stood there, staring at Naruto and his wet nurse, until Naruto was full and fell asleep again in satisfaction, and the woman breathed a sigh of relief. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't say anything more, turned around and left. Even if she had 10 times the courage, she would never do anything to Naruto again. However, it seems that Naruto needs to have a wet nurse. It is a good thing to be able to eat. As soon as I sat down in the hokage's office, someone pushed the door open. Shimura Danzo was the only person in Konoha who dared to walk into the hokage's office without knocking. As soon as Danzo came in, he walked directly in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hiruzen, Orochimaru has been going too far lately, with some Chunin even missing. Don't you care about your students? Sarutobi Hiruzen naturally knew what Orochimaru had done, and it was originally allowed by the Konoha high-level officials. However, this kind of thing cannot be seen in the open. It is known to everyone and all major ninja villages are doing it. But once it is exposed to the public, it must be condemned. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not comment on Shimura Danzo's words. Originally, Orochimaru was planning to defect during this period, but now he has suddenly settled down. Danzo must have gotten wind of it. In addition, he met with Orochimaru yesterday, so Danzo must have had some doubts. Danzo, are you sure it's not the roots? The recent disappearance of ninjas was really caused by the root. Sarutobi Hiruzen's question did not make Danzo panic, because he felt that he had a sure win. He had made many preparations to drive Orochimaru away. It can be said that Orochimaru has to leave, as Konoha can no longer accommodate him. The death of Hadake White Fang, the inaction of the root during the battle between the 4th generation and 9 Tails, and now the various encounters with Orochimaru are all Danzo's efforts to eliminate his competitors. In order to become Hokage, Danzo tried every possible means, even if it meant weakening Konoha's power. Sarutobi Hiruzen was very puzzled. Why could the title of Hokage be so attractive? Perhaps, all ninjas who grew up in Konoha will have a deep obsession with Hokage. Danzo, do you really want to be Hokage? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked suddenly, causing Danzo to freeze. He never expected that Sarutobi Hiruzen would suddenly ask him if he wanted to be Hokage. Danzo never said in front of others that he wanted to be Hokage, but almost all ninjas who knew Danzo knew that he wanted to be Hokage. How could Sarutobi Hiruzen not know? However, this kind of thing cannot be discussed openly. This is how politics works. We know they are lying, they know they are lying, they know we know they are lying, and we know they are lying, but they still lie. Everyone knew what Danzo wanted, but since Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't say anything, no one else dared to say anything. After all, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo are teammates and are both disciples of the 2nd generation. At the same time, Yuditen Koharu and Mito Kato Homura, 2 high-level advisors, also have a close relationship with Danzo. Even if Danzo wanted to become Hokage, it would only be a matter for a small circle of Konoha's high-ranking officials. Now that Sarutobi Hiruzen has taken the initiative to bring up this matter, the meaning has changed again. Sarutobi Hiruzen chuckled when Danzo remained silent. What? Is this how generous you are? Danzo reacted immediately. He felt very strange being bullied and looked down upon by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Perhaps embarrassed would be a more appropriate description. This may also be one of the characteristics of the Hokage world. People of the same S*X will always go from fighting and hating each other to finally developing a bond of mutual respect. The most typical example is Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. The two knew each other since childhood and had different positions, but they founded Konoha village together. However, they finally separated due to conflicts in their ideas. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo also knew each other since childhood and worked hard for a common dream, but in the end only Sarutobi Hiruzen became the recognized Hokage. The conflict between the two people's ideas became increasingly greater, but because of their past ties, they were unable to make up their minds. Sarutobi Hiruzen naturally knew what Danzo was thinking, but for the former Sarutobi Hiruzen, wasn't Danzo the softest corner of his heart? Danzo couldn't understand why Sarutobi Hiruzen would say such a thing, but he didn't want to lose face in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hokage, it is indeed my dream. Then give up your dream. You have no chance of becoming Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen said this with absolute certainty, without any hesitation. Danzo's eyes narrowed. Hiruzen, what on earth do you mean? The clenched fists and furrowed brows proved that Danzo was not at peace at this moment. Roots buried deep in the soil trying to be exposed to the air will only lead to the withering of the tree. I have decided to completely change Konoha, to make this big tree of Konoha sprout new buds and bring out a different vitality. Hearing Sarutobi Hiruzen's words, Danzo seemed to have heard some huge joke. Hiruzen, do you have the right to say such things to me? Danzo is the person who knows Hiruzen best, but he doesn't know that the most familiar old friend in front of him is no longer the former Sarutobi Hiruzen. The former Sarutobi Hiruzen really had no right to say such words to Danzo. Even in the 4th generation era, Sarutobi Hiruzen did not completely give up power, and most of the power was still in the hands of Sarutobi Hiruzen. It can be said that Sarutobi Hiruzen's greed for power and status is not much less than Danzo's. Qualifications? Do I need qualifications? Sarutobi Hiruzen chuckled. Give up your fantasy. Even if you get the Sharingan and the cells of the 1st generation, you are still a weakling. You are used to hiding in the shadows, which makes you so weak and narrow-minded. Danzo could no longer hold back his expression after Sarutobi Hiruzen revealed his biggest secret. Orochimaru, it must be Orochimaru who betrayed him. At this moment, Danzo could no longer remain calm. No matter if he transplanted the 1st generation eye cells, or coveted or even transplanted the Sharingan on his arm, as long as the people in the village knew about it, he would. It was common for Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo to have disagreements, but this was the first time they had such a tense confrontation. Not to mention the umbu around him, Danzo was also not at peace. Things had developed to this point, and it was obvious that Sarutobi Hiruzen was not joking with him, but really wanted to deprive him of his rights. But isn't everything at the root something that the two of them understand tacitly? It seems that in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, he can be nothing more than a political sacrifice. Danzo thought to himself that maybe something happened that made Sarutobi Hiruzen choose to sacrifice him and the root. But Danzo is not ready to compromise. As long as he leaves here and returns to his roots, he still has a chance to turn things around. After so many years of operation, he has managed the root like an iron barrel, and even every root member has been cursed by him, so life and death all depend on his thoughts. How could he possibly give up such a loyal power to others? Hiruzen, don't be so naive. There's no way I'm going to compromise. Danzo placed his hand on the bandage on his arm. He transplanted the target cells of the 1st generation, but at that time the Uchiha had not yet been exterminated, so he only transplanted a Sharingan. In order to cast a Izanagi, one must have a 3-Magatama Sharingan, and transplantation is not guaranteed to be successful, and there may be rejection reactions. Even though Danzo tried his best, he has only transplanted one, but just this one Sharingan gave him a full minute of invincibility. This invincible ability made Danzo even more wary and covetous of Uchiha's power. It was obviously irrational to have a conflict with Sarutobi Hiruzen in the Hokage building. For the time being, the only thing he could rely on was his Sharingan. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew Danzo's trump card, but he wasn't worried at all. Yesterday, he absorbed spiritual energy for a whole night. Although he didn't even reach the 1st level of chi refining, he could still use a simple golden light spell. This golden light mantra uses spiritual energy to communicate with the positive energy of heaven and earth, and then borrows magic from those enlightened sages to expel evil spirits. This golden light spell does not require any magical power, and the effect will only be better if he uses spiritual power to drive it. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't know whether he could borrow the methods of those immortals in this Hokage world. The techniques of immortal cultivators have a natural ability to restrain all kinds of evil spirits, but what Danzo has done is undoubtedly all evil. Sarutobi Hiruzen made hand seals with his hands. To be honest, the way this ninja made hand seals was quite similar to the Taoist hand seals. But it's just a resemblance in spirit, I haven't learned any of the true meaning. Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen actually performing a seal, Danzo immediately lost his composure. Fighting here? Not only would it cause damage to the Hokage building, but it would also make the matter worse, leaving no room for maneuver. Sarutobi Hiruzen moved quickly, chanting the 9 heavens Ying Yuan Leis Hung Puwatinzun, making the thunder seal with his hands, and directly cast a golden light mantra. Although he was the last immortal cultivator on Blue Star in his previous life, his cultivation level was not high. He only achieved the great perfection of chi refining but did not successfully establish the foundation. Although the blue planet has no spiritual energy, due to social progress and increasing conflicts, evil spirits often appear. So Sarutobi Hiruzen is a grandmaster of all kinds of exorcism spells. Sarutobi Hiruzen actually formed a seal with one hand? Danzo didn't see what technique Sarutobi Hiruzen was going to use, but judging from the posture, it should be some kind of secret technique. A golden light flashed, and Danzo felt an unprecedented crisis, as if he had encountered a natural enemy. The hairs on his body stood on end, and the instinct for survival made him activate his Izanagi in an instant. Everyone present only felt a faint golden light flash by, and Danzo's whole body immediately stiffened. His body began to curl up and hunch over, emitting bursts of black smoke, while a shrill wail came out of his mouth. Izanagi is Uchiha's ultimate eye technique, which can distort and modify reality, but after performing it, Sherry-nan will definitely go blind. There is no doubt that this is a kind of evil magic. At the same time, other people's cells were transplanted into Danzo's body, and there was even a human face on his shoulder that looked like the first-generation target. These evil spells that desecrate the flesh are undoubtedly within the range of the Golden Light Curse. The 2 root members around Danzo rushed up immediately when they saw Danzo's appearance. These 2 were Danzo's diehard fans who had been trained by Danzo to have no self-thinking. They wanted to create chaos and then take the opportunity to rescue Danzo. Unfortunately, he was defeated by Sarutobi Hiruzen's Umbu after just 2 encounters. The black smoke on Danzo's body dissipated, and he fell to the ground with his whole body exhausted. His right arm had completely decayed in such a short time and turned into a piece of rotten meat that fell to the ground. Danzo then vomited, spit out a lot of black blood, and then fainted. The Golden Light Curse was effective and directly destroyed all the first-generation cells in Danzo's body, but his Izanagi was also unsuccessful. This scene reminded Sarutobi Hiruzen of the time in his previous life when he was exorcising a man, and the scene was very similar to the present one. Several Umbu were all stunned. Even though ninjas were very powerful and it was not an exaggeration to say that they could fly and hide underground, they still felt fear instinctively when they saw the scene before them. Danzo was like the one possessed by an evil spirit in the legend. Catch him and send him to the hospital for treatment, but seal his chakra. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of his cigarette and gave the order directly. This made several Umbu react and immediately began to execute the order. Sarutobi Hiruzen hadn't expected that a simple golden light spell could have such a great effect. But this is also because Danzo is too weak. He doesn't have the strength, nor does he have the blood of Senju and Uchiha, and he has made himself neither human nor ghost. Except for his Izanagi, after he transplanted the Sherry-nan, like Kakashi, his strength was restricted a little. Although wood style can be used after transplanting first-generation cells, this wood style is far inferior to first generation. It is not wood style that is strong, but the first-generation person. The attempt to draw a tiger ends up with a dog. Although the Golden Light Curse is good, it probably has no effect against the Uchiha clan. However, it is probably very effective against the White Zetsu and Black Zetsu. As Sarutobi Hiruzen was thinking in his mind, deep underground in Konoha, Black Zetsu was almost scared to death. He could feel that if the secret technique that Sarutobi Hiruzen had just used on Danzo was used on him, he would probably also turn into a pile of rotten meat like Danzo's right arm, right? Without giving it any time to think, he used the Mayfly technique to quickly leave Konoha. As a monster that has survived from the Sengoku era to the present, the embodiment of Otsutsuki Kagaya's will, he can be said to be the one who is both the most fearless and the most afraid of death. Normal means cannot destroy him, even Uchiha Madara was deceived by him. He is the mastermind behind manipulating the ninja world. But now seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen's secret technique, it really scared him. He was here under the orders of Uchiha Obito, monitoring Danzo's preparations for the destruction of Uchiha. He didn't expect to see something like this. Although Konoha seems calm today, there are actually undercurrents. All members of the root have been arrested by Umbu. The curses left by Danzo have all been removed, but the minds of some of Danzo's diehard fans cannot be changed at all. If these people stay, they will be time bombs and can only be eliminated. But Danzo's diehard fans are only a minority. After all, it is not easy to completely destroy a person's independent thinking. There are still a lot of talented people in the root, including people from all major families in Konoha, and they are all elites. These talents who were originally going to enter Umbu were selected into the root. Now these talents will naturally have to go through some adjustments and observation before being incorporated into Umbu. After getting rid of Danzo, Sarutobi Hiruzen now has the final say in Konoha. The other 2 advisors can't cause any trouble. Sarutobi Hiruzen doesn't care about the old friendship and plans to take down these two former teammates directly. All the major families received the news. The leader of the root, Shimura Danzo, attempted to assassinate Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen in the Hokage building, but was defeated by the third Hokage in one move. The root was abolished and merged into Umbu. The third Hokage deserves the title of the strongest Hokage. This piece of news caused a huge uproar. Who doesn't know that Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen are in the same boat? The two have been good brothers for so many years. If someone wanted to cause trouble for Danzo in the past, Sarutobi Hiruzen would definitely be the first to jump out and say no. Danzo assassinated the Hokage? The root merged with the Umbu? There must be some conspiracy. At this time in the Uchiha tribe, Uchiha Fugaku and several elders gathered together, and were also worried about this matter. The fourth Hokage was good friends with Uchiha Fugaku, and his wife Uzumaki Kushina was also good friends with Uchiha Mikado. Because of this relationship, after the fourth generation came to power, the relationship between Uchiha and the village was greatly eased. But now the fourth generation leader and Jinchuriki are dead, and the one who drove the Nine Tails into rebellion is suspected to be an Uchiha with Mangekyo. This will lead to a huge change in the Uchiha's situation in the village, as they have been feeling targeted by the Root and Umbu during this time. Now that the Root has been disbanded, and the news of Danzo's assassination of the Hokage has been leaked, no one can figure out what Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen are going to do. Could it be a conspiracy against Uchiha? The news has been confirmed. Danzo's right arm was severed and he is now recuperating in the hospital. All of his diehard followers were executed, and the remaining Root members are being held captive by Umbu. An elder of the clan spoke up, saying that it was already afternoon, the incident had happened in the morning, and nothing had been hidden at all, and all the big families in Konoha had received the news. Uchiha Fugaku nodded, but his brows were tightly furrowed. This incident happened very suddenly and had a great impact on their Uchiha clan. Danzo inherited the will of the second generation and targeted the Uchiha clan in every way, as if he would not stop until the Uchiha clan was wiped out. Now that Danzo has been captured by the third generation, how will the third generation treat the Uchiha clan? How have you considered that matter? Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen are fighting each other. Now is the time when Konoha is at its weakest. It is the chance for us, the Uchiha clan, to regain control of Konoha. The person who spoke was Uchiha Setsuna. When the second generation was in power, he incited his tribe to rebel and was thrown into prison by Umbu. After the second generation died, he was released and sent back to the Uchiha clan. His current strength is close to cage level, and he is the leader of the Uchiha Hawks. The Uchiha clan had long been dissatisfied with the second generation's policy against the Uchiha clan, and now Danzo was captured by the third generation. The former ninja heroes are no longer as powerful as they used to be. Konoha's White Fang is dead, and Orochimaru is the only son left in Konoha, and it seems that Orochimaru can no longer stay in Konoha. It can be said that Konoha is now at its weakest, and this is the opportunity for the Uchiha clan. Unfortunately, Uchiha Fugaku was a more indecisive person, and caught between the Uchiha clan and the village, he didn't know what to choose. Things haven't come to that point yet, let's wait and see what happens. Uchiha Fugaku's words were agreed by more clan members. Although the Uchiha clan had extreme personalities, more people longed for peace and had a strong sense of identity with Konoha. Similar discussions took place in all the major families, and all the ninjas in Konoha believed that this matter was a conspiracy between Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen. No one believed that Sarutobi Hiruzen would really do anything to Danzo. However, Danzo is now lying unconscious in Konoha Hospital, and they have no choice but to believe the facts before them. For a while, all the high-ranking officials and ninjas in Konoha felt insecure. Everyone thinks that Sarutobi Hiruzen is really senile and that Konoha's strength has been reduced to only 1/10 of what it was before. Now Konoha is still at war with the Rock Shinobi and the Lightning Ninja. Although there is no all-out war, small frictions continue. The Nine Tails Rebellion had just ended, and everyone in the village was licking their wounds. But Sarutobi Hiruzen was actually engaging in infighting at this juncture? Orochimaru naturally also got the news. He was still worried that Danzo would become an obstacle to his becoming Hokage, but he didn't expect that Sarutobi Hiruzen would take Danzo down directly. It seems that the teacher has really made a decision this time. Orochimaru's heart is very complicated. Sarutobi Hiruzen has changed so much that he can't figure out his teacher's true intentions. However, the evidence has been almost cleared, and now that Danzo has been arrested, will Sarutobi Hiruzen really reform Konoha? Or even take action against the nobles of the Land of Fire? Orochimaru-senpai, the Hokage wants to see you. When I looked up, I saw the iconic white hair. It was Kakashi. Orochimaru still has great respect for White Fang, but he does not approve of what White Fang does. Human beings are so small and fragile, and the essence of human nature is disgusting. You come with me. Heite Kakashi was stunned for a moment, nodded and agreed. As a genius who became a jonin at the age of 12, Kakashi's talent is not inferior to White Fang, but the Sharingan drags him down, making him unable to reach cage level. Kakashi once joined the route and ruined Danzo's plan to assassinate Sarutobi Hiruzen, but Sarutobi Hiruzen still pardoned Danzo. Kakashi was there when Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo confronted each other today, and he is still in shock. Kakashi was well aware of the existence of the wood-style bloodline within the root, as well as Orochimaru's human experiments. Sarutobi Hiruzen had great trust in Kakashi, and he indeed became the sixth Hokage in the future. The two walked towards the Hokage building, one in front and one behind. Walking on the road, Orochimaru looked at the people coming and going in Konoha. His mood at this moment was completely different from a few days ago. A few days ago, he was still struggling with whether to flee the village, but now he was about to become Hokage. Orochimaru had completely believed that his teacher really wanted to pass the position of Hokage to him. If nothing else, the mere fact of dealing with Danzo was enough to prove that Sarutobi Hiruzen was really clearing obstacles for him. Kakashi, are you still adapting to Umbu's work? Kakashi's expression beneath the mask was a little surprised. Was this really Orochimaru? Wasn't he someone pretending to be him? Lord Orochimaru actually cares about his juniors? Orochimaru smiled, he could see Kakashi's doubt. Orochimaru is definitely not satisfied with being an elder of Konoha. If he can really settle down, he still wants to strive to become the next Hokage after Genki Hizen steps down. He must have his own team, and Kakashi is a good choice. He was also very interested in Kakashi's Sharingan and wanted to know what effect the transplant of the Sharingan would have on the body. Kakashi did not answer Orochimaru's question until the two of them arrived at the Hokage building. Kakashi knew that Orochimaru had been working with Danzo and was involved in human experiments, and even had a child in the root who inherited the wood style. However, now that Danzo has been captured, the Hokage-sama called Orochimaru over, probably to capture this guy as well, right? Sarutobi Hiruzen was still puffing on his pipe. The habits left by the predecessor cannot be changed in a short period of time. In the last few days, after waiting for Orochimaru to become Hokage, he will use this chakra to nourish his body. He didn't take it seriously when he saw Kakashi follow Orochimaru into the room. Orochimaru, I need some changes to happen in the village. I may have to practice in seclusion for a while. When that time comes, you and Nara Shikaku will help me manage Konoha temporarily. Kakashi. Kakashi's face was full of questions, but no one else could see them because of the mask. He suspected that he had not woken up yet. What happened today was really unbelievable. Sarutobi Hiruzen actually asked Orochimaru to help him temporarily manage Konoha. What on earth happened that made Sarutobi Hiruzen do this? Did he want to train Orochimaru to be the next Hokage? Hiruzen, what the hell just happened? At this moment, two people pushed the door open and walked in. They are two advisors of Konoha, Udaten Koharu and Mitokato Homura, former teammates of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo. Advisor? This is a really weird position. The strength of these two is not as good as Danzo, and as they get older, they can only tie with an ordinary jonin at best. He became a high-ranking official in Konoha just because he had a past relationship with Sarutobi Hiruzen. He has been a tyrant for these years and has long forgotten that he was once a commoner. What happened to Danzo and the root? The two advisors stared at Sarutobi Hiruzen, trying to get an answer from their former friend. Isn't it clear? He tried to rebel, but I caught him. Sarutobi Hiruzen raised his head and looked at the two advisors. You've come just in time. I'd like to inform you that you two need to put down all your duties. Umbu will investigate you. The few uses of these two old guys are that they have embezzled a lot of the wood industry's resources over the years. It's time to let these resources return to Konoha. What? I don't agree. Mitokato Homura shook his head repeatedly, wanting to jump up an object. Normally, he and Orochimaru are closer. What's more, now Sarutobi Hiruzen said he would take down Danzo, and he wants to take down both of them. Is he so crazy? Hiruzen, how can we do this without discussing it? Udaten Koharu was also dissatisfied, but her tone was noticeably softer. I am the Hokage, and the strongest Hokage. Everything in Konoha must change according to my will. Sarutobi Hiruzen's words silenced everyone present. What he said was indeed right. Konoha was really like this. If it weren't for the friendship of their former teammates, Danzo, and the two of them would not have reached the point they are in today. But now Sarutobi Hiruzen is actually planning to enjoy all the rights alone. Is it true that he gets crazier as he gets older? They even plan to let Orochimaru temporarily help manage Konoha. Would Sarutobi Hiruzen be controlled by someone using illusion? Does Orochimaru have the will of fire? Kakashi truly believed that Orochimaru did not have the will of fire. Because his father White Fang saved his teammates, he was blamed by the villagers and eventually committed suicide, which made him very painful and twisted inside. In his opinion, the experiments Orochimaru performed were unforgivable. Their will and opinions cannot influence Sarutobi Hiruzen's decision. The matter has been confirmed. Put down the power in your hands. Konoha will investigate you immediately. But Mitokato Homura still wants to struggle. No buts. I am the hokage of Konoha. My decision is the village's decision, and my will is the village's will. Sarutobi Hiruzen was unequivocal and simply decided the future of the two advisors. Konoha doesn't need these rotten guys anymore. The leaves of a tree bathed in sunlight should dance in the wind, and the roots buried deep in the soil need to have their rotten parts cut off. If there's nothing else, just go out. Sarutobi Hiruzen ignored the complicated looks from his two old friends and directly ordered them to leave. His words, "I am the Hokage," really shocked the two old friends. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was in his prime, was also so decisive and ruthless. Unexpectedly, Sarutobi Hiruzen toughened up again, targeting the two of them. After the two advisors left, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Orochimaru and Kakashi. "Orochimaru, this will spread soon. You must be prepared." After saying that, he looked at Kakashi again. "Kakashi, please don't go on missions for the time being. Just help Orochimaru." Third generation eyes adults. Kakashi had a lot of questions, but for a moment, he didn't know how to start. "I know you have a lot of questions, but you just need to follow my arrangements. Would I do anything bad to Konoha?" When Kakashi came out of the Hokage building, he was still confused. The world was changing too fast and he couldn't keep up with the pace at all. In just one day, everything in Konoha changed. "Kakashi, come with me and meet those two kids." Orochimaru's words sobered Kakashi up. He didn't know if it was because Sarutobi Hiruzen removed Danzo, and the two advisors chose Orochimaru to become the new high-ranking elder of Konoha, but at this time, he felt that Orochimaru's tone was not as cold as before. This is certainly not Kakashi's illusion. If there is no choice, who would choose to leave their hometown? Being able to become Konoha's elder advisor and protect Konoha's glory is definitely much better than being a rebel ninja. A few days ago, Orochimaru wanted to destroy Konoha, but now he just wants to make this village shine with different vitality in his hands. The children Orochimaru mentioned are Uzumaki, Naruto and Tenzo, the successor of Wood Style. Both of these children influenced the future of Konoha. Uzumaki Naruto was still a baby, and Sarutobi Hiruzen found him another wet nurse. Now the milk from two babies is definitely enough for him. "Kakashi, is this your first time seeing Minato's child?" Orochimaru looked at Naruto with great interest. To be honest, he was still very interested in the power of the Jinchuriki and the Uzumaki clan. Kakashi didn't respond to Orochimaru's words, staring at the child in amazement. Everything he cared about was dead. Family, close friends, teachers, he was the only one left alive. It can be said that Kakashi's heart had long been dead. Ninjas are just tools. It's not that he doesn't want to see Naruto, he just doesn't want to face him. "Kakashi, I'll leave Naruto in your care, how about that?" Kakashi's talent is very high, even higher than that of Orochimaru. However, Kakashi is now a dead person, without any ties left in this world. Such a person, no matter how talented he is, will not be able to improve his strength. Orochimaru still approved of Namikaze Minato, and naturally did not want the hero's orphan to grow up in the same way as the strategy formulated by Danzo. Heroes should be treated like heroes. With him and Kakashi taking care of him, Naruto's childhood would have been much happier, right? Kakashi hesitated for a moment, then nodded in agreement. After Danzo was captured, Orochimaru became one of the few high-ranking officials in Konoha, and he also wanted his master's children to live a happier life. The two men gave some instructions to the two nannies and left. "Kakashi, only strength can determine your destiny, otherwise you will only lose again and again." Orochimaru doesn't need Sarutobi Hiruzen's will of fire to brainwash him, nor does he have Uzumaki Naruto's mouth-to-mouth tactics. But he understood one thing: only if he had enough strength could he choose his own destiny. In addition to strength, the only thing Orochimaru pursues is immortality. However, he now has one more pursuit, which is to make Konoha rise again. Kakashi was still confused and didn't say much. Too many things had happened in the past few days and he needed to think carefully. The two came to Umbu. Except for a few die-hard Danzo members who were unable to communicate, the rest of the route was temporarily taken over by Umbu. Most people don't really obey Danzo, they just don't have the right to choose. Ninjas are just tools. But this time, they can choose their own lives again. You can choose to join Umbu or become an ordinary ninja, but you need to report to Umbu once a week. After half a year, you can be completely free. There was one exception: his code name was A and he called himself Tianzang. He is Orochimaru's experimental subject, successfully fused with the first generation's target cells, and inherited the Wood style. But his Wood style is far inferior to that of first generation. It's not Wood style that's strong, but Ashura's chakra. However, for Konoha, Wood style is still of extraordinary significance. Upon seeing Orochimaru, Tenzo's eyes became noticeably sharper. Kakashi stood nearby, looking at Orochimaru warily, fearing that Orochimaru would kill someone to silence him. After all, Tenzo is the product of Orochimaru's human experiments and may become a stain on Orochimaru in the future. Kakashi still thought according to his previous habitual thinking. At least now, Orochimaru didn't care about his reputation. Join Umbu and follow my orders for now. What's the meaning? I will soon become an elder of Konoha and also serve as the minister of Umbu. Obviously, Tenzo found it hard to accept this. Was Orochimaru going to become a high-ranking official in Konoha? He. Orochimaru smiled wickedly, stretched out his long tongue and licked the corner of his mouth. If Sarutobi Hiruzen were here, he would be able to see that Orochimaru had absorbed the senjutsu energy from the Ryokai cave, as well as some body modifications, which gave him many snake-like features. Okay, I promise. Tenzo took a deep breath. Danzo had been taken down, no matter why Orochimaru became a high-ranking official in Konoha. No matter what conspiracy Orochimaru has, he must use the wood style given to him by Orochimaru to prevent tragedy from happening. Orochimaru saw what he was thinking and didn't say anything. Since you agreed, you don't need to use the name A anymore. Give yourself a new code name and start a new life. Okay, Kakashi, you take him around the village. I have to go back first. After saying that, Orochimaru turned and left. Kakashi-senpai. Compared to Orochimaru, Tenzo obviously approves of Kakashi more. Kakashi was his predecessor and also once worked in the root department. Tianzang has a good impression of Kakashi, and to this day he still regards Kakashi as his goal and keeps working hard for him. Come on, I'll treat you to some ramen. Kakashi appears cold on the outside but is warm-hearted at heart. In fact, he cares about Tenzo very much, just like he cares about Uzumaki Naruto. It's just because I don't know how to start, and coupled with the pain in my heart, I often choose to escape. Orochimaru did not return to his laboratory, but came to the Hokage's office again. He really wanted to talk to his teacher. Sarutobi Hiruzen was bored in the office. Wait for 2 days, then you can start refining chi and prepare to build the foundation. Looking at the crystal ball on the table, Sarutobi Hiruzen was a little curious. Ninjutsu is said to be powerful, but in fact it is not that strong. However, the effects that can be achieved by some secret techniques are still unreasonable. It can even summon the souls of the dead and resurrect the dead. Sarutobi Hiruzen believes that it may be because the Six Paths reincarnation in this world is not perfect, and even the rules are relatively fragile, so chakra can be used to pry the rules so easily. For example, the telescope technique is quite magical. After injecting chakra into the crystal ball and using the secret technique, the scene of the Konoha women's bathhouse appeared in the crystal ball. It happened very suddenly, most likely because Sarutobi Hiruzen had used this secret technique to spy on the women's bathhouse last time. Teacher, I have something to talk to you about. Coincidentally, Orochimaru pushed the door open at this time, and the Umbu at the door did not stop him. After all, everyone knew that this Orochimaru had become a high-ranking official in the village. After being spotted by Sarutobi Hiruzen, Orochimaru would definitely become the next Danzo. The scene was a bit awkward. Orochimaru hadn't expected to see his teacher peeping into the women's bathhouse as soon as he came in. Ahem, come here quickly. As long as I am not embarrassed, it is others who are embarrassed. Having lived 2 lives, Sarutobi Hiruzen has long lost his sense of shame. Orochimaru was also not an ordinary person. Anyone who could conduct human experiments was not a simple person. The two of them simply ignored the scene in the crystal ball. What do you want to see me about? Sarutobi Hiruzen cancelled the telescope technique and looked at Orochimaru. Sensei, how are you going to change this Konoha? Just taking down Danzo is not enough. How to change Konoha? There are actually many ways. Orochimaru is an absolute genius. Whether in ninjutsu or scientific research, Orochimaru's talent is amazing. Orochimaru also has great personal charm, so he will definitely be a qualified leader. It would be a very good choice to let Orochimaru handle most of Konoha's affairs. The reason why the village did not choose the genius Orochimaru in the past was simply because of a power struggle. In the eyes of former Sarutobi Hiruzen, Orochimaru is obviously not as easy to control as the naive Namikaze Minato. I have many different ideas about changing this village, and I need to do it step by step. Now that you have become a high-ranking official in Konoha, you need to help me deal with some affairs in the village. Sarutobi Hiruzen certainly cannot be dragged down by some of the village's political affairs and decision-making. He only needs to continue to be the Hokage in name only. It's such a small village with so many things to do. How can a village chief handle government affairs? It's really ridiculous. Orochimaru nodded, not asking further questions, thinking that his teacher might have encountered something. However, it can be confirmed that this time the teacher really trusted him and asked him to help deal with some wood industry affairs and decision-making. And, now teachers can be trusted. How about telling the people in the village that Naruto is the son of the 4th generation's purpose? Just make your decision. Orochimaru is also an example of love turning into hate. He always wanted to destroy Konoha because he was too disappointed with Sarutobi Hiruzen. He asked about this matter because he wanted to test Sarutobi Hiruzen's bottom line, but he didn't expect Sarutobi Hiruzen to agree so easily. Orochimaru must seize this opportunity to change all that. Orochimaru, pursuing immortality is not a bad thing, but excessively desecrating the body and playing with the soul is not the right path. Orochimaru was stunned when he heard Sarutobi Hiruzen's words. Teacher, I have my own choice. It is obvious that Orochimaru has absolute confidence in his research. Living corpse reincarnation. Every time you change your body, your soul becomes weaker. Perhaps you can live for 200 or 300 years by changing your body, but what about after 1,000 years? Orochimaru's eyes widened when he heard Sarutobi Hiruzen actually mention the living corpse reincarnation. Teacher, how do you know? The soul and the body are equally important, so think about it carefully. Sarutobi Hiruzen wants Orochimaru to help him with some research. The blood of the Otsutsuki clan still has some advantages, but after practicing living corpse reincarnation, they will become neither male nor female, and their weaknesses are too obvious. After all, he is my disciple, so I still have to give him some advice. Orochimaru didn't dwell on this topic, and the two continued to talk about the current situation of Konoha. Orochimaru discovered that Sarutobi Hiruzen was ready to give up some of his power and not take everything into his own hands. Whether it was wanting to uncover Naruto's true identity or change his strategy against the Uchiha, Sarutobi Hiruzen had no objection. A few days later, what happened in these days was gradually brewing. The news that Orochimaru will become a high-ranking official of Konoha, the new Hokage advisor, and Konoha elder has spread like wildfire, and everyone in Konoha, from ninjas to civilians, has heard the news. Orochimaru's current reputation is not very good, and many people have opinions about it. Maybe it's also because the fourth generation is too sunny, which makes Orochimaru seem a bit too dark in comparison. However, in Konoha, the opinions of ordinary people cannot influence the decisions of the upper echelons. Orochimaru, who had just emerged from the Hokage's office, had already begun to take on the role of a member of Konoha's decision-making hierarchy. He has his own thoughts on the development of Konoha. Konoha welcomed a prodigal son back home. Jiraiya, who learned that the Child of Destiny no longer existed, chose to return to Konoha after being confused for 2 days. After some ideological struggle, Jiraiya decided to return to Konoha and try to take over as Hokage. Prior to this, the former Sarutobi Hiruzen had always believed that Jiraiya was the one who would take over as Hokage. More than once, he wanted Jiraiya to come back and take over the position of Hokage. But Jiraiya is looking for the Child of Prophecy, and is well aware of the struggle within Konoha and does not want to get involved. Now that Mount Mayaboku has chosen to be temporarily closed, Jiraiya thought about it and decided to return to Konoha. After all, Konoha still has his apprentice grandson. Perhaps if he takes over as Hokage, he can change the current situation of Konoha? So, Jiraiya used the summoning technique to hurry on his way and soon returned to Konoha. For Yuzu, who returns home, everything in his hometown attracts his attention. However, Jiraiya's first stop is definitely the Hokage building. Walking on the streets of Konoha, Jiraiya received exclamations one after another. After all, Konoha's son still has some influence, and even though Orochimaru's reputation is not very good, he still has many admirers. Although Jiraiya loves to peek into the women's bathhouse, his abilities are still very real. A lot of big things have happened in Konoha in the past few days, and it is still at war with other ninja villages. The return of a ninja-level combat force is still reassuring. Teacher, I'm back. Umbo had already informed the third generation of Jiraiya's return. Sarutobi Hiruzen's attitude was not as joyful as Jiraiya had imagined. Teacher, can't you be a little more excited? What are your plans this time? At this point, Jiraiya's expression also became serious. The Great Toad Sage said that the future of the ninja world is unpredictable and the Child of Prophecy no longer exists. This also did not surprise Sarutobi Hiruzen. The future was uncertain. Immortal practitioners never believe in the so-called fate. Prophecies are always ambiguous. I've said it before, don't put too much into what others say. Jiraiya's behavior of wandering around the ninja world had long displeased Sarutobi Hiruzen. Both the former Sarutobi Hiruzen and the current Sarutobi Hiruzen think that Jiraiya's behavior is a bit stupid. I've decided to enjoy my life. Jiraiya was also somewhat helpless about the unreliable Mount Mayaboku. He had been pursuing it for decades, but now it was all in vain. I came back this time to take over your position and lead Konoha to glory. Sarutobi Hiruzen was speechless. He didn't expect that Jiraiya came back with this plan. It's late. I'm not ready to retire just yet. You and Orochimaru should go to the elders of Konoha together. What? Jiraiya's mouth dropped open, his eyes wide. He had thought that Orochimaru was about to defect, and wanted to come back to stop his best friend. Okay, now that you're back, go talk to Orochimaru and check on Minato's son. I have some things to take care of. Looking at his teacher's indifferent attitude, Jiraiya couldn't believe it. Is this guy really his teacher? Jiraiya was a little helpless after being kicked out of the office by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Where is Orochimaru? Seeing that the person on duty at the door today was Sarutobi Shinosuke, Jiraiya asked. Shinosuke was still very respectful to Jiraiya. Although they were about the same age, his father's 3 apprentices were much stronger than him. Orochimaru-sama should be handling things at the root ruins. Ruins? Jiraiya's brain crashed again. The root ruins? Danzo attempted to assassinate the third-generation leader, but was taken down, and the route was cancelled and merged into Umbu. Jiraiya is a little overwhelmed. Danzo was actually taken down, and the route was actually cancelled? Jiraiya couldn't believe it. How could my teacher let such a thing happen? He knew the relationship between Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo very well, and his teacher actually let him become a high-ranking official of Konoha together with Orochimaru? It was simply unbelievable. In a way, his relationship with Orochimaru is also similar to Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo. They were all close friends once, but as time went by, their ideas diverged. Jiraiya knew that ever since Sarutobi Hiruzen chose Namikaze Minato as his apprentice, Orochimaru had embarked on another path, and he might become an enemy of Konoha in the future. But it is absolutely impossible for him to deal with Orochimaru unless it is absolutely necessary. Because of this, he can understand the teacher and Danzo very well. Shaking his head, the recent events had a huge impact on him. Jiraiya decided that after meeting Orochimaru, he would go to the long-missed Konoha women's bathhouse to get some materials. Arriving at the route, the atmosphere here made Jiraiya feel a little uncomfortable. He was not used to such a dark and gloomy place. Arriving deep in the roots, he finally met his old friend, Orochimaru. Seeing Jiraiya, Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh, but the sound was a little hoarse and weird. At this moment, Orochimaru's state of mind and mentality were completely different from before. The head follows the butt. After becoming a high-ranking official in Konoha, his attitude towards his former teammate Jiraiya has changed. At the same time, Sarutobi Hiruzen's words also reminded Orochimaru that true immortality is not to linger on. If the soul is flawed, it will still decay after thousands of years. He needs to find a more correct method. Before that, he still needs to lead Konoha to become strong. After Konoha becomes strong, by collecting the bloodlines of various families in the ninja world, perhaps they can find the secret of immortality. Even though he is about to become a high-ranking official of Konoha, Orochimaru has not forgotten his experiments, and may even use the power of Konoha to help him conduct his experiments. This is also something that Jiraiya is worried about, as he has a hard time tolerating the various experiments that Orochimaru conducts. Why are you back? I heard that you have become an elder of Konoha. Jiraiya had a complicated expression. He had finally prepared himself mentally to come back to be Hokage, but his teacher actually allowed Orochimaru to become a high-ranking official of Konoha and wanted him to be an elder of Konoha as well. Why? Don't you want to do your part for the village? Orochimaru naturally knew about this, and Jiraiya had refused the position of Hokage more than once. But Orochimaru knew what Jiraiya was thinking. Perhaps in Jiraiya's heart, he did not have the so-called will of fire. Cowardice is not an excuse. If you don't have the courage to change Konoha, you can just leave and continue to be the prodigal son you are. The son and all chose to leave Konoha because they were unable to change this increasingly corrupt village. Stay, the village needs you now. The series of accidents have left Konoha weak and in urgent need of Jiraiya's return. After all, Jiraiya's combat power is definitely at the cage level. The Konoha Sunin were already strong in their own right, and with the addition of the summoning beasts from the three holy places, they were also strong in the cage level. Jiraiya didn't hesitate at all and held out his hand to Orochimaru. Interesting. The mouth is hard, but the heart is soft. Orochimaru also stretched out his hand and shook Jiraiya's. Perhaps, with the efforts of the two of them, Konoha can change the trajectory of its future. How about I let Sensei hand over the route to you, and then let you be the dark of Konoha's ninja world? Orochimaru's words made Jiraiya frown. You want me to be Danzo? Jiraiya feels that the world is changing too fast. Before coming here, he actually wanted Orochimaru to play the role of Danzo, but who knew that now Orochimaru would let him be the leader of Root? Orochimaru was joking, of course. The Root had already been taken down. Well, I'll give you a mission first. Go get Tsunade. The medical department needs her. Jiraiya's eyes lit up. If Tsunade could come back too, the Sunin could be reunited again. They lost so much in the war that they were disappointed with the village. When the three of them become the top leaders of Konoha, will it be possible to sideline Sarutobi Hiruzen? What will be the outcome of Konoha under the control of these Sunin? At least it shouldn't be the same as before, right? Jiraiya has rediscovered the meaning of his life. Go check on Naruto. I've left him in Kakashi's care. Once you get Tsunade back, I'll be ready to reveal his identity. Jiraiya nodded and looked at Orochimaru. He could clearly feel that Orochimaru had become different as well. After leaving the route and seeing that Naruto was doing well and Kakashi was busy taking care of Naruto, Jiraiya discovered that everyone was changing. However, the Fire Nation and the Ming Dynasty had some objections to the processing of the roots. In addition to helping the village deal with some matters, Umbu also helps the nobles of the Fire Nation do some shameful things. But the Fire Country daimyo only had a slight objection. Of course, it may also have something to do with the fact that Danzo was taken down by Sarutobi Hiruzen in one move. Danzo has wanted to become Hokage for a long time, and he has close ties with the nobles and daimyo of the Land of Fire. Even some of the roots would carry out the daimyo's tasks, so the daimyo also got the news. The daimyo sent someone to inform Asuma and asked him to return to Konoha. Asuma, your father asked you to go back. Asuma was still one of the 12 guardian ninjas at this time, and was very dissatisfied with Sarutobi Hiruzen, so he went out to explore the world on his own. Why? Asuma was a little confused and didn't understand why Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted him to go back. Something big has happened in Konoha recently. Your father has been uneasy lately. This may be related to it. Asuma nodded, feeling somewhat worried, thinking that something had happened to Sarutobi Hiruzen, and chose to go back to Konoha to check. The news that Sarutobi Hiruzen had taken down Danzo and had Orikimura take over Danzo's position spread throughout the ninja world, and had a significant impact on the structure of the ninja world. Other villages were used to Sarutobi Hiruzen's tolerance and cowardice, but Orikimura was different. During the ninja war, Orikimura was a ruthless commander. Orikimura becoming a high-ranking official in Konoha might change Konoha's policies. At this time, both Cloud Shinobi and Rock Shinobi village were at war with Konoha, and minor frictions continued. Orikimura became a high-ranking official in Konoha, causing both Cloud Shinobi village and Iwagakure to consider whether to continue the war. Orikimura was still young, and if he doesn't give in, even if Konoha is missing a few high-end fighters, his strength will be stronger than them. After all, in the Third Ninja World War, Cloud Shinobi and Rock Shinobi were both losers. It was only because of Konoha's internal strife that they provoked local disputes in order to erode Konoha's strength. After seeing Naruto, Jiraiya left Konoha and embarked on a journey to find Tsunade. Among the Konoha Sunin, Tsunade is the one who was most disappointed with Konoha. The death of his younger brother Naoki and his lover Kato-dan made Tsunade completely disappointed with Konoha and Sarutobi Hiruzen. After leaving Konoha, he also cut off contact with Konoha. Jiraiya and Orikimura both kept in touch with Konoha, only Tsunade completely cut off contact with Konoha. Wandering around various casinos, Jiraiya's royalties were basically squandered by Tsunade. It was because of this that Jiraiya knew Tsunade's location. Sarutobi Asuma returned to Konoha with the daimyo's delegation. What's going on? As soon as he got back, Asuma headed straight to the hokage's office. Sarutobi Hiruzen was drinking tea, preparing for a few days of retirement. Old man, why are you in such a hurry to get me back? On the way back, Asuma also found out that Danzo had been taken down, the route had been temporarily abolished by Sarutobi Hiruzen, and even Orikimura had become a high-ranking official in Konoha. Such a huge turmoil in Konoha will affect the entire ninja world. What's it like to run around outside when you're asked to go home? Sarutobi Hiruzen is a little helpless with this rebellious little son. He is obviously not very strong, but he is very rebellious. If Asuma continues to venture out there, he will definitely encounter danger. The so-called 12 guardian ninjas are of very poor quality and have great resentment towards Konoha. Some of them believe that Konoha should not exist and that the entire land of fire should be controlled by the daimyo. After a few years, Asuma would come into conflict with these people, leading to the disbanding of the 12 guardians. Now that Konoha is about to be in turmoil, Asuma will be targeted more, so it would be better to let this kid return to Konoha. This is what I'm after. However, Asuma does not buy into Sarutobi Hiruzen's account. As he is still young, he wants to make a career and prove himself. Asuma has great respect for Sarutobi Hiruzen, but his ideas are in great conflict with Sarutobi Hiruzen's, and he is very dissatisfied with Sarutobi Hiruzen's previous practices. I'm old now, and the village may change a lot in the future. You should come back and contribute. Unlike what Asuma imagined, Sarutobi Hiruzen was not angry, but his tone was very gentle. Furthermore, what Sarutobi Hiruzen said was something Asuma couldn't refuse. The communication between father and son often ends up being too harsh on each other's attitudes. Now that Sarutobi Hiruzen's attitude has softened, Asuma has also realized the problem with his tone. Okay, I'm going to find my brother. After saying this, Asuma turned around and left. After meeting him, he indeed found that his father had changed. In the afternoon, Yuriten Koharu, Mito Kato Homura, and Orikimura came to the hokage's office together. In addition to them, the heads of all the major families in Konoha were also present, even Uchiha Fugaku was there. Yuriten Koharu and Mito Kato Homura will also resign as advisors, and Tsunade and Jiraiya will return to the village to become the new advisors. The matter had been decided, but the two consultants obviously still wanted to struggle. Hiruzen, there are many things they are not familiar with. We can slowly transition and there is no need to rush the handover of work. Yuriten Koharu is not willing to give up, and even wants to do the same as when Namikaze Minato was in power. On the surface, Namikaze Minato is the Hokage, but in reality he is just a thug who handles miscellaneous tasks. The key decisions are still made by these Konoha high-ranking officials. Umbu has almost finished investigating you. Do you really think I don't know the bad things you guys have done over the years? Orikimura had figured out Sarutobi Hiruzen's thoughts in the past few days. As his teacher, he was really willing to give up some of his power temporarily, and even his views on the ninja world had changed a lot. Moreover, Harafei-Nisan seemed to be quite resistant to Konoha's political affairs, and he had been asked to help deal with many things in the past 2 days. You too should retire soon. Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke up, giving the final word on the matter. In the ninja world, strength is the key. Yutaten Koharu and Mitokato Homura are having a hard time facing a Jonin now, so how can they possibly compare with Jiraiya and Tsunade? Before, Yutaten Koharu and Mitokato Homura were able to call the shots in Konoha, but they actually relied on the strength of Sarutobi Hiruzen. The patriarchs of the major families were all watching the show. The ninjas have been unhappy with Konoha's top leaders for a long time. It was clearly a village built by all the major ninja clans together, but in the end, a few civilians jumped on their heads. The heads of both the Uchiha and Hyuga clans were wondering what effect Orochimaru's ascension to power would have on them. The most troubled ones are obviously the Uchiha. The Uchiha Fugaku are not stupid either. Orochimaru has been coveting their Sharingan for a long time. Although Danzo is gone, if Konoha still targets the Uchiha after Orochimaru becomes a high-ranking official of Konoha, the Uchiha will have a harder time. No one spoke for the two consultants, and after a little struggle, they chose to compromise. After all, he is old and already has grandchildren. If they really fall out, it will be difficult to deal with. But this time Sarutobi Hiruzen did not talk about the will of fire, but looked at the high-ranking ninja leaders of Konoha. The ninja world is in the midst of a major change that has not happened in 100 years. Konoha needs new hope. I will lead Konoha to move forward. After saying this, the team leaders of these ninja clans had different expressions. Although Orochimaru had a bad reputation, he was very powerful. Hearing that Jiraiya and Tsunade would also return to Konoha made everyone even more excited. After Orochimaru became a high-ranking official of Konoha and began to help handle some government affairs, Konoha's style changed. Everything became simpler in order to achieve better efficiency. At the same time, the Scientific Research Department was established. Orochimaru directly served as the director, and invited the Nara clan to join. It is such a shame that this group of highly intelligent and lazy people are not used to conduct scientific research and handle government affairs. There is also an explosive news. The so-called Fox Demon is actually the son of the 4th generation. In other words, the son of a hero. For a moment, most of the villagers in Konoha felt extremely guilty. Naruto and Kakashi now live in the house that was once the 4th generation's destination, and the door is already filled with various gifts. This made Kakashi feel somewhat relieved, but also somewhat bitter. His father died amid public opinion. Why don't these people have their own judgment? At night, after Orochimaru had dealt with everything, he breathed a sigh of relief. Even if we remove a lot of unnecessary steps, there is still a lot to do. Sarutobi Hiruzen assigned a lot of tasks to him, and even with the help of Neri Alushu it still took him a long time to finish them. There were many things that he needed to consider. At this time, Konoha was in a state of disrepair, there were many wounds that needed to be healed, and many problems that needed to be solved. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who temporarily handed over all these useless government affairs, was free from all worries. With his 2 sons grown and his wife dead, Sarutobi Hiruzen is now alone. After finishing his work for the day, Sarutobi Hiruzen returned to the Sarutobi family mansion. Although the quality is not as good as the big families in Konoha, the number of people in the Sarutobi family is not small, and the total number is even greater than that of the big families. However, their talents are average, jonin at best. The Sarutobi clan's 5 released talents were not passed down. In other words, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Sarutobi Suzuki were special cases. After instructing Asuma and Shinashuk to follow Orochimaru's arrangements, Sarutobi Hiruzen began his retreat. The training efficiency of a ninja is not high, it relies more on talent. The chakra content is closely related to the bloodline and affinity to chakra. It has been a few days since I traveled through time, and I can finally start my formal training. The spiritual energy in Konoha village is not that strong, so Sarutobi Hiruzen came to the outskirts of the Death Forest. The reason why Konoha is hostile to other ninja villages has a lot to do with its geographical location. The forest resources in the Land of Fire are very rich. The resources in other ninja villages are relatively scarce. The trees in the Death Forest are very thick, and just one branch is enough to accommodate several ninjas to move around on it. Such a huge forest was left behind by the first Hokage. From this, we can imagine how powerful the 1st generation was. Over the years, the forest remains amazingly vibrant. This place is full of vitality and the spiritual energy is also rich. The rich spiritual energy in the forest has even bred some ferocious beasts that are far beyond normal size. Finding a thick tree stump and sitting cross-legged, Sarutobi Hiruzen began to sense the chakra in his body. The unique energy created by squeezing the potential of the mind and body will consume lifespan and potential, but it must be said that chakra is very quick to develop and very versatile. And after a long time, chakra and escape techniques have evolved according to the environment. For example, people from the water country are more suitable for water style, and there are also people like Kisame who are completely different from normal humans. The entire ninja world has merged with chakra, but this cannot change the fact that chakra comes from the sacred tree. Sarutobi Hiruzen can use compound ninjutsu, even ninjutsu like the 5 elements Great Link, and his body still has plenty of chakra. However, now Sarutobi Hiruzen is going to disperse all of his chakra to nourish his physical body and lay the foundation. Take a deep breath, slowly absorb the spiritual energy from the outside world, then silently recite the mind method to communicate with the body, and begin to absorb chakra with the body. For the Otsutsuki clan, the fruit of the sacred tree is a great medicine that absorbs the life energy of a planet. For Sarutobi Hiruzen, the chakra he cultivated himself is also a tonic that can nourish the body. 3 days later, the chakra had been completely consumed, and the body that was strong on the outside but weak on the inside became full again. His pale hair turned black, and he even grew a new set of teeth in his mouth. The skin all over his body was cracked. As Sarutobi Hiruzen stood up, the old skin fragments flew away in the wind, revealing his wheat-colored skin. Sarutobi Hiruzen at this moment looked completely different than he did 3 days ago. The previous Sarutobi Hiruzen looked like an old man in his twilight years, but now it's hard to tell his exact age. He has full muscles and a long breath, and looks to be only about 30 or 40 years old. He shook his head. Although his body had recovered a little, it was still a little weak inside and needed some rare treasures. In the Death Forest, we found some ferocious beasts that contained spiritual energy, killed them directly and started to barbecue them. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen was only at the first level of chi refining, but he had already made a good start. The Minamiga River, this river witnessed the rise and fall of Konoha. At this time, Uchiha Shisui and Uchiha Itachi were discussing the ninja world and life. 2 young children, with serious faces, were chatting about topics that many adults would not even think about. These two are also Uchiha's top talents. Danzo feels that Uchiha is uncontrollable, which may also be related to the fact that Uchiha is full of such people. Uchiha people are too stubborn, easily deceived and self-touched, and their thinking logic is different from that of normal people. Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Shisui are the best of the Uchiha clan. Itachi, do you smell the aroma of barbecue? Shisui suddenly turned his head and smelled carefully, and the aroma of barbecue filled the air from the forest. Uchiha Itachi nodded, he also smelled it, but he preferred sweets and was not that interested in grilled meat. Let's go and take a look. This place is close to the Uchiha clan territory, and other ninjas generally don't come near here. Shisui thought that someone in the tribe was having a barbecue. The two of them didn't eat lunch, and Uchiha Itachi didn't object. The two of them walked together in the direction where the smell came from. Sarutobi Hiruzen caught a huge black bear and brought it to the Nanga River, where he skinned and deboned it and was grilling it. The black bear's paw is quite nutritious and can replenish energy. Fasting can only be started during the foundation building stage, and one starts to feed on chi after reaching the golden elixir stage. However, this does not mean that one does not need to eat at all after reaching a high level of cultivation. The flesh and blood of powerful monsters and medicinal herbs are all helpful for cultivation. Speed up grilling with fire style, a simple seasoning found in the forest. It's an ordinary cooking method, but the ingredients are good enough and the dish is also top-notch. Shisui and Itachi followed the smell along the way, and just as they came over they found a stranger grilling meat. The barbecue technique was very rough. A huge black bear was cut into pieces and skewered on wood for barbecue. Judging from the amount, it would take more than a dozen people to finish it. Sarutobi Hiruzen had noticed the two little guys a long time ago, and could tell at a glance that they were Itachi, the filial son, and Shisui, the little fool. Because of Uchiha Kagami, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shisui are relatively familiar with each other. Shisui also has the intention of joining Umbu. He wants to be a bridge between the village and Uchiha like Uchiha Kagami. It looks familiar, but I can't remember who it is right now, but it's definitely not from the Uchiha clan. Uncle, who are you? Uchiha Itachi didn't say anything, but he was secretly on guard in his heart. Strange people appeared around the Uchiha tribe, most likely with bad intentions. Don't you recognize me? The voice was also very familiar, and after just a little thought, Shisui opened his mouth wide. You are Hokage-sama? Yes, I am the 3rd generation Sarutobi Hiruzen. Shisui and Itachi looked at each other, confused as to why the 3rd Hokage had changed from a hunched old man to his current middle-aged appearance. Ha, even if I'm older, it's not too much to use secret techniques to make myself younger, right? Hearing the 3rd generation leader say this, Shisui and Itachi nodded and accepted this statement. Transformation technique is the basic ninjutsu taught in ninja schools. It is not excessive for the 3rd generation to use more advanced transformation technique, but this expression and feeling are really confusing. It doesn't look fake at all. 3rd generation master, why is the village targeting the Uchiha clan? Itachi never stops talking until he shocks people. Having been taken to the battlefield by Fugaku, although he is still young, he has already realized the cruelty of war and the ugliness of human nature. Fugaku would never have thought that he just wanted to take his son to see the world, but he ended up raising the greatest filial son in the ninja world. Itaki, that's a bit too direct of a question. Shisui was a little helpless. The atmosphere in the Uchiha clan was very depressing now. Everyone in the clan believed that Orochimaru would take action against the Uchiha clan and further exploit the Uchiha clan's treatment in the village. The radicals think that Konoha is weak now and it is a good time to rebel, but once Jiraiya brings Tsunade back, there will be no chance. The whole village is like this. After Orochimaru became a high-ranking official in Konoha, he has been dealing with the trivial matters of the village, except for letting everyone know about Uzumaki Naruto's life experience. Sarutobi Hiruzen has not issued any other decrees. Everyone knows that only after Jiraiya and Tsunade return to Konoha and the Sun and gather together will Konoha's central decision-making level change and truly begin to reform in a big way. The third generation team had disappeared for a few days, Danzo was still in the hospital, and the two consultants had gone home to retire. Although Orochimaru was only the advisor of the Hokage now, most of the affairs of Konoha are now handled by Deshuewan. Orochimaru is definitely not a conservative like the third generation. Uchiha Itaki is certainly not stupid. The third generation is grilling alone, which is obviously a good opportunity to understand the relationship between the village and the family. Because the Uchiha's power is so strong, most people are afraid of you. Sarutobi Hiruzen answered Uchiha Itake's questions while fiddling with the grilled meat. The Senju clan and the Uchiha are enemies for generations. The first generation let go of their hatred, but the second generation did not. As disciples of the second generation, I and the other old guys like Danzo will naturally target the Uchiha clan. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't say anything roundabout and directly told Uchiha Itake the most direct reason. Uchiha Itake was silent for a moment, then nodded. However, the village should not target you so much in the future. Of course, the premise is that the Uchiha clan cooperates with Konoha's orders. Really, third generation master? Shisui was very surprised. If the village did not target their Uchiha clan, he believed that as long as they worked hard, the relationship between the village and the clan would definitely be better. We'll see. Do you two want to join me for a barbecue? Itaki has a relatively quiet personality, and is even a little socially anxious. However, if I can have dinner with the third generation, I might be able to get more information. Itaki, like Shisui, hopes that the village and the family can live in harmony. Okay. The two sat down and watched Sarutobi Hiruzen grilling meat. I don't know how this black bear could grow so big, but it seems that the strength of the summoning beasts in the ninja world is linked to their size. There is no need to grill the meat until it is fully cooked. Sarutobi Hiruzen uses fire style to grill the skin until it is crispy, sealing the juice inside. Paired with simple seasoning, it is absolutely delicious. The two little guys lost a hind leg. This hind leg was bigger than the two little ones combined, but he was a ninja after all. So Shisui quickly cut it into two parts with his ninja sword and handed one to Itaki. Normal humans cannot control their desire for meat. Even though Itake likes sweets very much, he has been practicing with Shisui for a long time today and is already hungry. Seeing the meat handed to him by Shisui, he took it and started to enjoy it. The bear meat was really delicious. After taking 2 bites, Itake wanted to turn around and continue chatting with the third generation about the Uchiha issue. However, when he turned around, he saw a shocking scene. I don't know what secret technique the third generation used to become younger, but one person has already eaten half of the roasted bear, and he was still stuffing bite after bite of bear meat into his mouth, like an eternally hungry glutton. Shisui also opened his mouth wide. Those who can become Hokage are indeed different from ordinary people. The speed and amount of food he eats are really amazing. Shisui and Itake were still children after all, and they just marveled at the third generation's appetite without giving it much thought. As for Sarutobi Hiruzen himself, although he looks much younger on the surface, his body is actually very weak. In addition to absorbing spiritual energy, he also needs to eat enough meat to replenish it. It didn't take long before one of the bears was eaten clean by Sarutobi Hiruzen, and the 2 bear paws helped him recover a lot. After eating, Sarutobi Hiruzen let out a long sigh and smiled at the 2 stunned Uchiha brats. In fact, the Uchiha people are all tsundere. People in the village are afraid of the Uchiha clan. In fact, the Uchiha clan's desire for friendship and recognition is far beyond that of ordinary people. Cultivating Uchiha's recognition of the village is far better than destroying the Uchiha clan. If Uchiha is uncontrollable, then are the other people in the village controllable? Many times, pure Uchiha can be more trusted. Okay, you two should go back quickly. I'm going to find something to eat. Sarutobi Hiruzen still felt that his blood and energy were empty, and he still needed more nutrition. Still not full? Hokage are all monsters. Itaki and Shisui looked at each other, feeling that something might be wrong with Sarutobi Hiruzen's brain. Okay, third generation master, we'll go back first. Shisui and Itake both felt that there was something wrong with the third generation, so they chose to leave. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't care. His body had just recovered, and with the chi entering his body, it was naturally very different from before. And Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't try to hide it, just let it go. After spending nearly another week in the Forest of Death, Sarutobi Hiruzen finally returned to the Sarutobi mansion. Shinnosuke and Asuma began to doubt their lives as they watched their father grow younger. After not seeing my father for a few days, he actually looked younger and even his temperament changed? I've said it before, Konoha needs to change, and I have to make some changes too. At the dinner table, third generation looked at his two sons with a smile and began to explain. How is that possible? Asuma didn't believe Sarutobi Hiruzen's lies. Even if things would be much easier if he didn't care about the village, it couldn't be such a big change. This is a secret technique that I am still developing. The cost is the loss of chakra. Asuma and Shinnosuke opened their eyes wide and felt carefully, and indeed they could no longer sense the presence of chakra in their father. Getting younger is definitely a good thing, but the chakra is gone, isn't this a joke? Well, now Konoha has Orochimaru Jiraiya and Tsunade. It doesn't matter if I have chakra or not, and it won't affect my strength. On the contrary, I will become stronger. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't care, but his two sons did. After all, in both of their hearts, their father is truly the strongest hokage. For ninjas, chakra is their capital for living in this chaotic world. You two should stop talking nonsense. As Konoha becomes stronger and stronger in the future, why would you need an old bone like me? Although he says he is an old man, he looks like a middle-aged man and even seems more energetic than Shinnosuke. Asuma and Shinnosuke looked at their father, not knowing what to say, so they just let him be. Shinnosuke and his wife quit Umbu and the two planned to have a child. In addition, after Orochimaru began to deal with Umbu affairs, he asked Shinnosuke to hand over the position to Kakashi. He also found that if he did not rely on Sarutobi Hiruzen's influence, he would not be so successful in Umbu. Relationships are part of strength, but in the end one still has to rely on oneself. Although Kakashi is much younger than him, Shinnosuke also knows that he is unlikely to beat Kakashi. As for Asuma, no one knows what he will do after he comes back. He will probably become a team leader. Sarutobi Hiruzen is not going to stay long when he returns home this time. He is going to move out of the Sarutobi clan's mansion and find a quiet place in the area near the Death Forest on the edge of Konoha. You don't have to stay away from the world to practice, but it is still necessary to find a quiet place. Now Sarutobi Hiruzen needs to build his foundation quickly. Both chi refining and foundation building lay the foundation, but his chi and blood are deficient, and his body is old. The longer he stays in the chi refining stage, the more of a burden it will become. The Death Forest is full of spiritual energy, and there are some wild beasts with spiritual energy in their bodies, and even some rare medicinal herbs. However, if you want to find spiritual herbs, you probably have to go to the tribe of the summoning beasts and the three holy places. Sarutobi Hiruzen planned to visit the Monkey Demon clan's territory when he reached the peak of chi training. After all, the Sarutobi clan and the Sarutobi clan have been cooperating for a long time. Although not as close as the Inyazuka clan, the cooperation is more than that between his three disciples and the three holy places. Not many people knew about the changes in Sarutobi Hiruzen. Shisui and Itaka didn't say much. After all, they were still young, and the conflicts between the village and the family had not yet reached the point where they could not be delayed. Sarutobi Hiruzen was in the village, and no one recognized him as the third Hokage. Everyone's attention is on Orochimaru, the new Konoha high-ranking official, as well as Jiraiya and the possible return of Tsunade. Basically everyone believed that Tsunade would definitely come back and Konoha would move forward under the leadership of the Sunin. Most people think that Sunin will bring different changes to Konoha, but more people think that Orochimaru's style of doing things may be the same as Danzo. The newly established Department of Scientific Research is a cause for concern. If either Jiraiya or Tsunade became Hokage, the people and the ninja clan might feel more at ease. This also made it convenient for Sarutobi Hiruzen, so he asked his family to build a wooden house for him and began his own training. Shinnosuke and Asuma discussed it and thought that this was actually a good idea, but they felt a little disappointed inside. To be honest, the two of them were very dissatisfied with Sarutobi Hiruzen's previous actions, and they also knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen once wanted to train them to become the next generation of Hokage. But after Sarutobi Hiruzen gave up all his power, they more or less regretted it. But it's pretty good now. The Sarutobi clan is far less powerful than other ninja clans. They don't have any secret techniques to show off, and there are very few people who can sign a contract with Inma. This is also related to the fact that the reproductive capacity of the Ape Demon clan is not that strong. Being a little ordinary might be a good thing. They were both very pleased to see their father looking much younger and more vigorous. Jiraiya was still traveling very quickly. This time his purpose was very clear, so he did not stop to collect folk customs and headed straight for Tancho Street. Tancho Street is located in the southwest of the Land of Fire, not too far from Konoha, but not too close either. It took Jiraiya 5 days to get here. As the largest red light district in the Land of Fire, it is dotted with casinos, pubs, and other places. However, there are very few ninjas here, most of them are merchants and nobles. Jiraiya is naturally like a fish in water when he comes here. It seems that it is not so important to find Tsunade or not. The most important thing is to relax for a day. Sarutobi Hiruzen naturally didn't know that Jiraiya hadn't found Tsunade, but had relaxed. He had a lot of things to deal with, but most of them would have to wait until Jiraiya and Tsunade returned. Nara Shikaku, one of the Ino, Shikacho, was invited by him to become the Hokage's secretary and assistant, and together with Orochimaru, they helped him handle Konoha's government affairs. In this regard, Nara Liu thought about it for a night and decided to agree. He also sorted out his thoughts on what had happened in Konoha recently. From the meeting of the entire Konoha top management a few days ago, in which the third generation dismissed its advisor, it could be seen that the third generation had completely delegated power. Although Orochimaru did not leave a very good impression on everyone, during the Ninja World War, everyone understood that Orochimaru was definitely a reliable companion. There were many bad rumors before, but from the few times we met, it can be found that Orochimaru's temperament and tone are not as gloomy as before. Orochimaru now has a unique personality charm, and may become a better leader than Sarutobi Hiruzen. With the help of Nara Shikaku, Orochimaru has been focusing on research these days. He didn't want to deal too much with the political affairs of the wood industry. Perhaps only the former Sarutobi Hiruzen would be so obsessed. Becoming a high-ranking official in Konoha does not mean stopping research. He even has to make his research public. Of course, not all research is made public, and a large portion of it is shameful. However, many simple studies can involve people in the village. As a researcher, Orochimaru is well aware of how important the development of science and technology is. The technological foundation of the ninja world is not bad, but due to the existence of ninjas and various giant beasts, the development of science and technology is greatly hindered. When special abilities exist in a world, people tend to be more conservative in their thinking. Today, Orochimaru had one more thing to do, which was to visit Danzo in the hospital. Orochimaru is an adult. Mr. Advisor. After becoming an advisor, Orochimaru had even more admirers. Even if he had some thoughts in his heart, he would definitely show great respect to Orochimaru on the surface. After arriving at the hospital, the patients and nurses were excited to see Orochimaru. For these young nurses, Lord Orochimaru is young and very powerful, and is simply the best quality stock. Orochimaru had never expected that he would meet so many admirers, and many young nurses were flirting with him. The change in the village's attitude towards Orochimaru was obvious. After being influenced by several Hokage, the people of Konoha have almost blind trust in the Hokage. After Sarutobi Hiruzen made Orochimaru a high-ranking official in Konoha, he was gradually recognized by everyone even though his reputation was bad. How's Danzo doing? He just woke up today, but he hasn't spoken a word. I don't know if he has any mental problems. The doctor in charge of Danzo answered Orochimaru's question. Orochimaru nodded and opened the door. Hearing the voice, Danzo raised his head, and after seeing that it was Orochimaru, he stared at Orochimaru with unwillingness in his eyes. At this moment, Orochimaru looked extremely sunny, and the gloomy temperament he once had was completely swept away. This is also the goal that Danzo has been pursuing all his life. How's the recovery going? Orochimaru looked down at Danzo with a half-smile. Orochimaru, you will regret this. This matter is not as simple as you think. Sarutobi Hiruzen will not give up the power in his hands. You are just his new puppet. It's just the howling of a defeated dog. Orochimaru's answer immediately made Danzo angry. Danzo has been working with Orochimaru for a long time and knows Orochimaru very well. It is precisely because of this that he believes that Orochimaru's becoming a high-ranking official in Konoha will not make Konoha better. I will lead Konoha to become stronger, just watch carefully. For Sarutobi Hiruzen's sake, Orochimaru didn't plan to do anything to Danzo. He just retired like the other two advisors and watched him lead Konoha to prosperity. Danzo was silent for a moment, then continued. The Uchiha clan must be carefully guarded and eradicated if possible. Danzo still has his heart set on Uchiha. As for Sarutobi Hiruzen, who killed him instantly with just one jutsu, Danzo believed that Orochimaru left a backup plan when transforming his body, which was why Sarutobi Hiruzen was able to deal with him so cleanly. I will make good use of the Uchiha clan and integrate them into the village. Orochimaru disagrees with Danzo. If he was not a high-ranking official in Konoha, he would naturally fear or even desire the power of Uchiha, but now that he has become a high-ranking official in Konoha and his interests are aligned with Konoha's, he looks at the issue from a different perspective. Now, he can study the secrets of Uchiha openly. Uchiha is not trustworthy. Danzo, I am the elder of Konoha. Hearing Orochimaru say this, Danzo was helpless and didn't know what to say. If he was defeated, the root would certainly no longer exist, and he, the Dark One of the ninja world, would never be able to realize his ideals. After saying this to Danzo, Orochimaru just felt relaxed all over. He had wanted to say this a long time ago. This guy Danzo had always been giving him orders. He really has been displeased with her for a long time. He had seen Sarutobi Hiruzen say similar things to Danzo more than once before, and he had long since gotten used to it. Sure enough, in Konoha, power is the most precious thing. Then, Orochimaru left the hospital. Having lost his root, his arm, and his first-generation eye cells, and his Sharingan, Danzo is now at best at Shinin. Jiraiya spent a night in Tancho Street. The so-called 3 prohibitions of ninja had long been broken by the Sunin. If the top beam is crooked, the bottom beam will be crooked too. Sarutobi Hiruzen, a guy who likes to peek into the women's bathhouse, has taught 3 disciples who love gambling, S**X, and body modification. It's normal for Tsunade to look down on Jiraiya. Women definitely don't like men who often go to places of entertainment. However, this time Jiraiya came with a mission. He said he would do anything to bring Tsunade back to Konoha and reunite the Sunin. It is also very easy to find Tsunade. The legendary big fat sheep is not just talk. Tsunade is a guest of honor in all casinos in Tancho Street, a super VIP. Who can blame Tsunade for having a strong background? With Konoha and the Fire Nation backing her up, she is not afraid of not being able to pay off her gambling debts. Tsunade's luck today was neither good nor bad, but something always felt a little off. Tsunade, long time no see. Seeing Tsunade, Jiraiya was in a good mood. He has liked Tsunade for a long time. To have Tsunade return to Konoha and make Konoha a better place together with Orochimaru is something that can only come true in dreams. Tsunade saw Jiraiya, but she wasn't very happy. It has been more than a day or two since she left Konoha with the young Shizun. If there is really no choice, who would be willing to leave their hometown? Tsunade was too disappointed with Konoha. It was a joke that the grandson of the first generation's goal would die in the war. Jiraiya, what happened in the village that would make you come to me? When Tsunade saw Jiraiya, he knew that something must have happened in the village. However, Tsunade didn't want to go back, so his attitude towards Jiraiya was naturally not very good. Tsunade, Orochimaru has become an elder of Konoha. You and Orochimaru succeeded in their rebellion? Tsunade was a little surprised, but not particularly excited, thinking it was some kind of plan by Danzo and Orochimaru. Jiraiya shook his head. He knew Tsunade's concerns and pain. It was the sensei who made Orochimaru an elder of Konoha. Orochimaru is willing to be a puppet for the sake of this title? Among the Sunin, the one who showed the least respect to Sarutobi Hiruzen was probably Tsunade. She has a lot of opinions about Sarutobi Hiruzen, and is the one who disagrees most with Konoha's plans. The route has been cancelled, and the advisors have all gone home to retire. Now most of Konoha's affairs will be handled after the major events are completed. Tsunade couldn't believe it, but seeing Jiraiya's serious look, she knew that this was not a joke. How is that possible? I don't know. Maybe the teacher is really old? Tsunade, come back with me. Konoha's medical department needs you. Even so, it's too late, right? Minato could have done this when he became Hokage. Jiraiya scratched his head, knowing that Tsunade was actually just being tough on the outside but soft on the inside. As the granddaughter of the first generation, Tsunade is the one who wants Konoha to become better and better. Let's go back. Konoha really needs our protection this time. There's no intrigue. Even Orochimaru has changed. Tsunade was silent for a long moment, taking another sip of his drink. Pay off all my gambling debts, and I'll go back. Jiraiya naturally agreed, but when he got the bill, he realized what it meant to be in tears. Tsunade, why don't you just not go back? Even if the village has to pay this much money, you have to think twice. Stop talking nonsense and go back quickly. I want to see what that old man is going to do and whether he is really going to change. The village must be willing to pay the bill for Tsunade's return to Konoha. In the face of strength, money is not important. The Land of Fire is located in the center of the continent. Its terrain is mostly hilly and it has vast arable land and forests. It has always been the richest region, and Konoha's income is not small. Sarutobi Hiruzen has been concentrating on training in the newly built wooden house these days. The speed of cultivation in the chi refining stage is still very fast. In his previous life, he had been at the peak of chi refining for decades and was already familiar with everything in the chi refining realm. The abundant spiritual energy in the ninja world has allowed Sarutobi Hiruzen to reach the 3rd level of chi refining. After the 9th level of chi refining, it is the foundation building stage. The strength of cage level is almost the same as that of foundation establishment stage, but it also depends on the level of the foundation establishment cultivator. If it is a foundation building cultivator with a legacy from a large sect, it would be easy for him to deal with a cage level warrior. For ordinary foundation building cultivators, it depends on the specific situation. After all, the lower limit of ninjas is relatively low, and some secret techniques involve the field of rules and are very unreasonable. But for cultivators, the foundation building stage is just the beginning, and the upper limit is countless times that of a ninja. During this period, the entire village had forgotten about him, the third generation. Perhaps in most people's minds, the best third hokage is the third hokage who does not care about Konoha's affairs. Jiraiya and Tsunade returned to the village together, and the two had constant friction along the way. However, they returned to the village smoothly. Even though Tsunade was hemophobic, the two of them could still dominate the entire ninja world with their strength. When we were about to reach Konoha village, we saw the welcoming team. Standing at the front of the team was Orochimaru, the elder of Konoha. It must be said that after becoming a high-ranking official in Konoha, Orochimaru's temperament changed. It had been nearly half a month since he became the advisor, and Orochimaru had gotten used to it, and the village had also gotten used to this new Konoha high-ranking official. This time, it was also Nara Shikaku's idea to welcome Jiraiya and Tsunade. Orochimaru talked to him about many ideas, but they could only be implemented after Jiraiya and Tsunade came back and the sun and gathered. Konoha is neither big nor small, and not everyone is of one mind. Although Danzo is not strong, the root still has some deterrent power. He immediately started drastic reforms. Orochimaru alone may not be able to stabilize the situation. Seeing the welcoming team at the village entrance, Jiraiya couldn't help but want to stand out. Toad Sage returns. He was about to say something else, but was knocked to the ground by Tsunade's powerful punch. Lying on the ground, Jiraiya felt the long-lost powerful punch. Although it was painful, he felt a sense of happiness. Okay, you two are back, let's go straight to the meeting. Orochimaru was not going to reminisce today, but to announce something. With Jiraiya and Tsunade's support, Konoha is now his one-man show. Although they felt a little helpless, Jiraiya and Tsunade knew that there must be a reason why Orochimaru was so anxious. The Sunin reunited, and almost all of Konoha's ninja leaders and jonin were present. Orochimaru sat at the main seat, with Jiraiya and Tsunade at his sides. Nara Shikaku was standing not far away. Everyone, I have a few announcements to make. First, the Uchiha clan will be removed from their duties as part of the Konoha Police Department. The Uchiha clan can participate in other positions within Anbu and Konoha. Increase the construction of the ninja school. Orochimaru announced a series of orders, the most noteworthy of which was the abolition of the Konoha Police Department. After talking about some policy changes, Orochimaru's tone turned serious. Next we have to go into war mode, with Jiraiya and Kakashi leading the team, and completely driving out the Cloud Shinobi and Rock Shinobi. After saying that, he looked at the silent Uchiha Fugaku. The Uchiha clan will also need to send a jonin to participate. Chief Fugaku, I need to discuss something with you after this meeting. No one objected, except for the abolition of the Uchiha Police Department. Everything else was what everyone wanted to see. All the major ninja clans also realized that Orochimaru was not a conservative like the third generation, but a radical who was far superior to Danzo. With the return of Jiraiya and Tsunade, Konoha's external attitude will become even tougher. The only thing that makes people think deeply is Orochimaru's attitude towards the Uchiha clan. He abolished the Konoha Guard, but allowed the Uchiha clan to join the war, making it unclear what his intentions were. Neither Jiraiya nor Tsunade spoke. Since Orochimaru had become a senior executive, Sarutobi Hiruzen had handed over some of his power to Orochimaru. Even though they were good friends, they had to listen to Orochimaru's command at this time and they could talk later if there was anything else. Jiraiya and Tsunade suddenly felt as if they were Mitokato Homura and Yutaten Koharu. Uchiha Fugaku stayed last. Orochimaru's expression was still half-smile, which made Uchiha Fugaku a little uneasy. However, his son Itachi told him that Orochimaru would not target their Uchiha clan in the future, and this was said by the third generation. For the third Hokage, Uchiha Fugaku, like most people in the village, has a mixture of respect and loathing. The young Sarutobi Hiruzen led Konoha to prosperity, but the old Sarutobi Hiruzen only absorbed nutrients from Konoha. The security department is actually unnecessary. It will only increase the conflict between Uchiha and the village. This is true. The security department is responsible for trivial matters that offend people, and Uchiha's character is very straightforward, so it is too easy for him to offend people. Uchiha Fugaku had long been aware of this problem, but the proud Uchiha were unwilling to give up their jobs in the security department. In the future, the village will be open to Uchiha, and we will encourage Uchiha to move out of their clan land and live inside the village. Orochimaru then talked to Uchiha Fugaku for a while before letting him leave. Orochimaru, I didn't expect you to be such a decent elder. Jiraiya sighed a little, thinking that Orochimaru might really be more of a leader than him. He is a person who cannot sit still and does not have that many twists and turns in his mind, so he cannot get involved in the things happening in the village. Tsunade didn't feel anything. Having been raised by the second generation and the first generation, she was quite familiar with these things. She didn't have any good feelings towards the Uchiha clan. After all, the two families were feuding for generations. But it was the most basic thing for the village not to target the Uchiha clan. There was nothing to object to. Tsunade, I'm leaving the medical department to you. We may have to engage in a small-scale battle with Cloud Shinobi soon, so there will definitely be a lot of casualties. Tsunade nodded, it was definitely her duty. We obviously won, but we paid so much. Jiraiya knew the situation of the village very well. Konoha was obviously the winner, but it gave in step by step and paid a lot. Where's the old man? Tsunade looks at Sarutobi Hiruzen. Why didn't they hand over the village to the young people earlier? Perhaps Nawaki and Dan would not have died. Let's go meet him together later. Speaking of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Orochimaru also had a strange look on his face. He had received news from Umbu that Sarutobi Hiruzen had become younger. Orochimaru didn't understand why this happened, and these days Sarutobi Hiruzen had been staying in a small cabin on the edge of Konoha, and no one knew what he was doing. My teacher is the hokage of the village. After not seeing each other for a long time, Jiraiya, Orochimaru and Tsunade seemed to have a lot to say, but they were not in a hurry. After all, starting today, Tsunade and Jiraiya will no longer leave Konoha. The three of them walked together towards the Forest of Death, towards Sarutobi Hiruzen's cabin. Once upon a time, the three of them, led by Sarutobi Hiruzen, would stroll together in Konoha village after completing their missions. At that time, the three of them had no worries and were full of hope for the future. But in the blink of an eye, the three of them have grown up and are already quite old. They have experienced war, death, and even betrayal and deception. Even if I still love this village in my heart, everything can never go back to the way it was. What happened that made the teacher attack Danzo? Tsunade took some time to go to the hospital, learned about the current situation of Konoha's medical department, and saw Danzo, who was still recovering. Danzo has been completely destroyed, not only physically but also mentally. He is no longer the Dark Lord of the ninja world that he once was. After losing the Hashirama cells, Danzo's body became extremely weak, especially after Orochimaru said to Danzo, I am the elder. Danzo has become completely decadent. He didn't react at all after seeing Tsunade, which made Tsunade very strange. She didn't know what had happened to make Danzo become like this. What's even stranger is that Sarutobi Hiruzen would actually attack Danzo. Talking about this, Orochimaru shook his head. He didn't understand how his teacher defeated Danzo in one fell swoop. From what people present said, Sarutobi Hiruzen used some secret technique to defeat Danzo in one fell swoop. Danzo's body modifications all came from Orochimaru. The Root's scientific research capabilities are very limited, so Orochimaru knows Danzo very well. Orochimaru temporarily stopped transforming his body for this reason. I wonder what secret technique Sarutobi Hiruzen used to be so restrained against the first generation cells. Having such an obvious weakness was not what Orochimaru expected, and Sarutobi Hiruzen's words that day also made Orochimaru realize one thing: immortality is not that simple. If the price of extending your life is that you become weaker and weaker, it cannot be considered true immortality. Our teacher has been very mysterious lately, so don't be surprised when you see him later. What's so surprising about a stinky old man? Tsunade didn't believe that Sarutobi Hiruzen had changed at all. Even if he withdrew from the management of Konoha now, it would only make him look more cowardly. It's not easy to be a teacher. Jiraiya further understands Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Sarutobi Hiruzen was grilling in front of the cabin. Sarutobi Hiruzen's cultivation heritage comes from the ancient human race. It is not orthodox legal cultivation, but is more inclined towards physical cultivation. Strengthen your body and spirit so as to go further on the path to immortality. A copy of yin-yang body refining art is enough to cultivate to the Mahayana stage, but according to Sarutobi Hiruzen's calculations, this ninja world can only allow him to cultivate to the nascent soul stage at most. Every world is different from another. This world is obviously weaker and can accommodate less energy. The so-called god of Otsutsuki has absorbed the life energy of so many planets, and his strength is probably equivalent to that of a fake elixir demon cultivator who failed to form an elixir. It is also because this world is too weak, and the suppression ability of the great Dao is too weak. If a ninja were to go to the immortal world, even if Uchiha Madara used his strongest fire style, he could only release a small fireball at most. There is still plenty of time now, and Sarutobi Hiruzen can practice slowly. When he was hungry, he would go to the Death Forest to catch wild animals, and continue practicing after eating. This reminded Sarutobi Hiruzen of the days when he practiced in Yamanaka in his previous life. However, this world is full of spiritual energy, while in the last life, the Dharma ending age was a difficult time. When Sunan arrived at the Death Forest, he saw a familiar figure grilling meat. This old man is quite free. Tsunade felt a little helpless seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen being so idle. She now believed that Sarutobi Hiruzen really wanted to retire this time. Sarutobi Hiruzen had already noticed the three people, but did not react. Teacher, we are here. Jiraiya was very happy. The three of them and the teacher hadn't been together for a long time. However, when Sarutobi Hiruzen looked back, Jiraiya and Tsunade Orochimaru were both stunned. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen has completely transformed into a handsome middle-aged man. He is about 60% similar to the young Sarutobi Hiruzen, but he is more handsome. He was taller, with a tougher look and demeanor, and he had an indescribable aura. Now that you're here, do you want to have some barbecue together? Jiraiya was stunned, Orochimaru was also stunned, and Tsunade was a little bit unbelieving. But judging by the aura, this really is Sarutobi Hiruzen, and he's not even using the transformation technique. Teacher, what's going on with you? Maybe it's because I figured it out recently. Without so much pressure, people will be younger, right? Ha ha ha. After saying that, Sarutobi Hiruzen scratched his head. How is that possible? Jiraiya's mouth was still open, he couldn't accept that his teacher had become more handsome than him. He even looked younger than him. Jiraiya is not handsome, his hair has been white since he was a child, and he looks older than Sarutobi Hiruzen. Tsunade found this a bit strange, maybe this was some kind of secret technique similar to the 100 healing technique, but she couldn't sense chakra from Sarutobi Hiruzen anymore. Old man, how old are you? Do you still have the leisure to do this? Orochimaru didn't say anything, just observed Sarutobi Hiruzen. He was very familiar with the human body. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't use some secret technique, but his body really recovered its vitality. When you reach my age, you will understand that when you are old, you should retire and enjoy life. Taking a bite of grilled meat and taking a sip of hot tea, Sarutobi Hiruzen closed his eyes comfortably. Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen enjoying it so much, the three of them couldn't bear it anymore and came over to eat barbecue as well. Tsunade had a lot of questions he wanted to ask Sarutobi Hiruzen, but seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression, it seemed unnecessary to ask. It has already happened, there is no point in talking about it. Sarutobi Hiruzen is definitely not a competent teacher, and the several apprentices he taught all have serious shortcomings. However, this has nothing to do with Sarutobi Hiruzen now. After all these years, there isn't much relationship left between the four of them as master and apprentice. Old man, what are you going to do in the future? Jiraiya always felt a sense of unreality when looking at the younger Sarutobi Hiruzen, very familiar but completely different. Some matters in the village will be temporarily handed over to you three to handle. I am still the hokage of Konoha village, and I want to lead Konoha to become stronger. Old man, you look younger than all of us now. Don't you like handling Konoha's government affairs the most? Why do you suddenly give up now? Tsunade is very upset with Sarutobi Hiruzen and wants to run away? No way. Cloud Shinobi has been testing Konoha because Sarutobi Hiruzen is too weak. It was the result of giving in step by step that led to today's situation. In Tsunade's opinion, if Sarutobi Hiruzen really knew that he was wrong, it would be better for him to go to the front line with Jiraiya, or continue to help Konoha deal with a lot of useless government affairs. And seeing how young Sarutobi Hiruzen had become, she was even more furious. Leaving behind a mess, and then recuperating and living a second life? And enjoying the title of the strongest Hokage, as the supreme ruler of Konoha, Sarutobi Hiruzen's dream is too good. My chakra is gone. I am no longer a ninja. Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression did not change, and out of the three disciples, Tsunade felt the most sorry. Stop talking nonsense. How is it possible? Tsunade was very angry and wanted to give this dishonest old man a powerful punch, but then she saw Sarutobi Hiruzen extending his hand. If you don't believe it, you can feel it for yourself. Tsunade hesitated for a moment, then reached out her hand and shook it with Sarutobi Hiruzen's. There was no trace of chakra at all. Tsunade was stunned and checked it several times. Old man, what's wrong with you? It is not an exaggeration to say that Tsunade's medical ninjutsu is the strongest in the ninja world. She can be sure that Sarutobi Hiruzen really has no chakra. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen is in very good health, so healthy that he doesn't show any signs of aging. As Hokage in the war, I don't need to take any action. Chakra is useless. Although Orochimaru said nothing, he reached out his hand and felt Sarutobi Hiruzen's body. Sure enough, there was no chakra flowing. How is this possible? Jiraiya was a little puzzled. How could chakra just disappear like that? The price for making me younger is my chakra. I've also figured out that as Hokage, I won't be required to contribute to the war. Sarutobi Hiruzen withdrew his hand and looked towards the death forest in the distance. The Sunin was silent for a moment. The importance of chakra to a ninja is self-evident. None of them expected that Sarutobi Hiruzen would actually give up chakra. Perhaps what happened recently really dealt a big blow to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Orochimaru, Tsunade, and I will make Konoha the strongest. Jiraiya is still the same as when he was a kid, and although he has not become Hokage, he now has the confidence to make Konoha a better place. Tsunade also fell silent, and his resentment towards Sarutobi Hiruzen mostly dissipated. Maybe my teacher also has something to hide. I believe in you, but don't worry about me. Ninja is not the only way in this world. Sarutobi Hiruzen's words did not attract the attention of Jiraiya and Tsunade, only Orochimaru was deep in thought. Since you are like this, why don't you step down and let others take over? But Tsunade knew Sarutobi Hiruzen very well, and knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen was reluctant to give up the prestige that Hokage brought. If the development of the wood industry can be left entirely to them, then it wouldn't matter if Sarutobi Hiruzen continued to bear the title of hokage. You old man, why are you talking so much nonsense? If you are afraid of death, then live a few more years and see what we will turn Konoha into. Tsunade put away his fist. Although he wanted to hit Sarutobi Hiruzen, without chakra, this blow would probably cost Sarutobi Hiruzen his life. I'll watch it, and I believe in you. It's too late to say this, just wait and see. Tsunade turned her head and chose to leave directly. She was going to go to Konoha's medical department, and then go to the Senju clan's land to sort things out. Orochimaru wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't ask. Jiraiya also nodded and chose to leave. He was about to go to the front line. Looking at the three disciples leaving, Sarutobi Hiruzen continued to eat barbecue. He had a lot of things to do during this period, collecting materials to make his own magical weapon, looking for herbs to refine pills. These were all urgent matters. Does the ninja world have enough good materials? Does it have the medicinal materials that he can use to make pills? Sarutobi Hiruzen doesn't know. First, you need to advance to the 6th level of chi refining, and after you have a certain level of self-protection ability, you can then travel around the ninja world to see the customs and practices of various countries, which will also be of great help to your cultivation. Orochimaru and the others didn't care too much about Sarutobi Hiruzen becoming younger. Instead, they cared more about Sarutobi Hiruzen giving up his chakra. They could guess that Sarutobi Hiruzen became younger because of giving up chakra. But when giving up chakra, one also loses strength. In this chaotic ninja world, most people cannot give up their strength. Maybe the recent events in Konoha really had a huge impact on Sarutobi Hiruzen, which made him choose not to be a ninja. The son and all chose to forgive and no longer pursue the mistakes Sarutobi Hiruzen had made. Tsunade began to reform the medical department. This time no one would object, and Orochimaru gave full power of the medical department to Tsunade. On the other hand, Uchiha Fugaku returned to the Uchiha clan. Now the Uchiha clan has received the news that the Konoha Guard has been cancelled, and they are outraged. In the eyes of the radicals, the village is trying to deprive them of their last bit of power, and by letting them participate in the battle, it is trying to erode the remaining power of Uchiha. When Fugaku returned to the clan, he called a meeting with the clan leaders and all the jonin. Chief, this Orochimaru is too much of a bully. Why don't we just rebel against him? That's right. These Konoha high-ranking officials are still determined to destroy our Uchiha. We can't continue to be so soft-hearted. Uchiha Fugaku sighed. Oftentimes, he had a headache. The tribe members are too honest and easy to take advantage of. All the Uchiha tribe members are smallmouth bass, chasing the fish hook and biting it. Orochimaru-sama is not targeting us. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted. How is that possible? The security department has been cancelled. What are we going to do in the future? Shut up. Listen to me. It was obvious that someone was instigating the conflict and the tribesmen's emotions were aroused. Orochimaru has promised me that he will no longer target the Uchiha clan. After this was said, there was a burst of discussion. Then why did you cancel the Uchiha's guard department? Uchiha Fugaku had no choice but to explain to them the bad things the guard department had done to Uchiha. The people of Uchiha finally realized why everyone in the village was so dissatisfied with them. It's just like how people in later generations feel about urban management. They only take care of small matters and they are all things that offend people. In addition, the Uchiha clan's personality is always foul-mouthed, which leads to everyone's bad attitude towards them. And Orochimaru promised that the Uchiha clan will be able to participate in the selection of all village positions and will be able to move into the village. Everyone can start a new life in the future. After discussing it for a while, everyone agreed that this was a good thing. Many people became excited. After all, the Uchiha clan was very large. Some people wanted to be medical ninjas, and some wanted to be teachers in ninja schools. As the village gradually opens up to them, everyone will have more choices. After pacifying his tribesmen, Fugaku breathed a sigh of relief. The relationship between the village and the family has always put a lot of pressure on him, the head of the Uchiha clan. Although Mangekyo is activated, it is a cursed ability in itself. The evolution of the Sharingan is inevitably accompanied by loss and pain. He wants to protect the village and his family. Now there is no need to be in a dilemma. After all, the village and the family are one. Father, what's going on? When he returned home, Fugaku saw his eldest son Itaki. Itaki is a sensible child and has his own thoughts on many things. It's okay. The village won't target us anymore. Our lives will definitely get better and better. Itaki nodded and was full of hope for life. In this way, Suzuki could grow up healthily, right? Shisui's dream can also come true. Maybe he can also pursue the true meaning of life? Kakashi is in the former 4th generation's home, busy taking care of Naruto. After the two wet nurses knew that Naruto was the son of the 4th generation, they didn't care whether their own children could eat enough and just tried their best to make sure Naruto was full. The greater the hatred I had towards Naruto before, the greater the guilt I feel now. It may take a short time to transform from a fox demon hated by everyone into the son of a hero. After Jiraiya discussed the Cloud Shinobi matter with Orochimaru, he also came to this familiar room. As the master of Naruto's father, Jiraiya never came to see Naruto, but left Konoha long ago. Jiraiya-senpai. Kakashi still admires Sunan very much. Naruto. This name was given by Jiraiya. The yellow hair is very similar to Minato and he looks very energetic. Jiraiya tried to hug Naruto in a panic, but Naruto kept struggling and Jiraiya felt uncomfortable no matter how he hugged him. You should hug like this. Fortunately, after taking care of Naruto for a few days, Kakashi has some experience. After Kakashi's instruction, Jiraiya finally managed to pick up Naruto clumsily. Naruto was still very obedient and didn't cry or make a fuss. Perhaps Ashura's chakra had begun to influence him from such a young age. The baby in his arms made Jiraiya feel a little dazed. If only Minato was okay. Tsunade is the only one left in the Senju land. Coming back here reminded her of a lot of sad things. A man drank a lot of alcohol and fell asleep. Orochimaru was thinking about the changes in Sarutobi Hiruzen. He keenly felt that the recent changes in his teacher should have a lot to do with him giving up some of the power in his hands. The ultimate dream that Orochimaru pursues is immortality. Becoming Hokage is insignificant compared to immortality. After all, how many years has the village been established? How many years has the history of the ninja world been established? If you want to live forever, you must be stronger. Sarutobi Hiruzen is right. If you try to achieve immortality by making yourself weaker and weaker, it is definitely not true immortality. So how can we achieve true eternal life? Senju? Uchiha? Does the secret of immortality lie with these two families? Or is it the Holy Land? Orochimaru was full of thoughts, yet full of fighting spirit. No matter what the answer is, he will definitely find it. The village had changed a lot, but none of it had anything to do with Sarutobi Hiruzen. He still lives in the cabin, barbecuing, practicing, and no one comes to disturb him. Sarutobi Hiruzen is still nominally the Hokage of Konoha, but most of Konoha's affairs are now handled by his 3 apprentices. His wife Sarutobi Baiwako has passed away, and his 2 sons Shinosuke and Asuma have grown up and started their own lives. However, today Sarutobi Hiruzen welcomed a new guest, who is also Sarutobi Hiruzen's old friend, Danzo. After staying in the hospital for a few days, Danzo has almost recovered. There was no harm to the root in the first place, it was just to eliminate all the evil spirits from outside his body. But after Orochimaru told Danzo that I was the elder, Danzo was really broken. What was he pursuing all his life? The position of Hokage was never prepared for him, he was just a root buried deep in the soil, waiting to rot. After thinking it through, Danzo gave up his insistence. Of course, it might also be because everything he had was ruined and he had no chance of turning things around. Walking down the streets of Konoha, Danzo could also see that this village had long outgrown him. In fact, he has always been the person with the worst reputation in Konoha, and all the ninja clans in the village will not let him become Hokage. No one recognized him, and no one cheered for him. So, Danzo also did not go back to the Shinura clan, but headed to the edge of the village to see how Sarutobi Hiruzen was doing. To this day Danzo still doesn't understand why Hiruzen did this. Everything was apparently going according to plan, but Hiruzen suddenly stopped playing and took him down, as well as the other 2 advisors. Then he just threw most of the village affairs to Orochimaru, called back Jiraiya and Tsunade, and broke most of the policies that they had set when they were in power. 3. When we arrived at the cabin, we didn't find Hiruzen. He called out, but there was no response. The wooden house was very simple, with no furnishings except a bed and a futon. There were some simple seasonings and a tea set on the table. There is nothing else. Did Sarutobi Hiruzen take him and his 2 former teammates down just to live an ascetic life like this? Danzo still couldn't understand. Since there was nothing to do anyway, Danzo simply picked up the tea set on the table and started making tea. After waiting for a while, Danzo just picked up the tea and was about to take a sip when he heard heavy footsteps outside, and every step caused the ground to shake. There was a loud bang, causing the tea to spill all over Danzo. He quickly stepped outside the house and saw a huge tiger lying dead outside the door. Then, Danzo saw his good friend. Danzo, why did Sarutobi Hiruzen become so young? After Danzo transplanted the first generation eye cells, the whole person's aging slowed down. Even though he looks to be in his 40s now, compared to the current Sarutobi Hiruzen is obviously younger than the other 2. Moreover, Sarutobi Hiruzen not only looks younger, but also more energetic. His determined eyes and explosive muscles make Danzo unable to associate the man in front of him with the hunchbacked old man before. Why? Danzo couldn't figure it out.